straight, fight back!
Hey, over at ThomHartmann.com, we've got some really cool stuff. A lot of people don't realize that we produce a daily newsletter, and Sue puts we call it Sue's Daily Stack on there, which is literally a link to every story that I've talked about in the show. So all the research is right there. It's free. We don't share or sell our subscriber list. It's there's just it's there. It's there for you. And it's over at ThomHartmann.com. You can sign up for the free newsletter. You also can get my big picture take of the day, which is exclusively over at our website at ThomHartmann.com, as well as links to our videos, the book reports we typically do every day, all this stuff and more. It's all there at ThomHartmann.com. So check it out and sign up for our newsletter. I think you'll really enjoy it and appreciate it and find a lot of value there. We put a lot of work into this stuff. And you'll find it all right there on our website at ThomHartmann.com. And be sure to check out the newsletter and sign up for it. It's great. 3 weeks and 2 days of fundraising every single day seems like a lot. And, I totally get that, and it is. But unfortunately, that's what it takes to eventually, kind of get some people to say, all right, you got me, I'm still watching and I want this damn fundraiser to end. So I'm going to call and give some money. 877-378-8669. And thank you to the folks. We hit our $10,000 goal yesterday, actually, our daily goal. In fact, we hit 12,000, which is great because the day before was $530. And, it's not enough to keep anybody on the air. And so we need to do that again today, or at least the 10 grand, please. Although we're considerably behind from last week. We had, one exceptionally good day when we had a match, but other than that, it's been a very, very weak pledge drive up to this point. And, as I've said before, I get it that, every politician on earth is asking for money, and there's a lot of great organizations out there that need help. And these are critical times that we live in. They're dire times. But that's precisely why it's so important to support Free Speech TV. When we put on this program Lori Wallach on, from publiccitizenstradewatch.org, or Greg Palast, the investigative journalist, or, fill in the blanks, who our regular guests are. In a way, we're supporting them. They're representing organizations that are constantly asking for money, engaged in outreach. And by putting them on the air, we're elevating their visibility and helping their fundraising efforts, which is a good thing. I'm saying that that's a good thing. So in that context, in that way, by helping Free Speech TV, you're also helping all these other organizations that pop up on Free Speech TV, all the other groups that you'll see on Sonali's show and Stephanie's show and Amy's show and on and on. David's show. That it's media is, that kind of this complex thing, and it's got all this stuff to it, and it has consequences far beyond just, it's the Thom Hartmann Program kind of thing. So by helping Free Speech TV, you literally are helping all those other groups. You're putting them in front of literally, millions of people. And that's a great thing. So please call now, 877-378-8669. With a $20 gift, you get the Free Speech TV flag lapel pin. With a $60 gift, you get the Free Speech TV set of stickers, the 6-sticker design pack. With a $72 gift, you get my new book, which is, the release date is June 7th, but We're hoping we can get copies in late May to be able to, I'll sign book plates for them, and they'll put them in the books, and so you'll have autographed copies of them. The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment. And I think I've described before to you, this is, in my opinion, a major book. I put a lot of work into this book, and it's really the culmination of years of research. And I think you're going to find it absolutely fascinating. It's got some really good solutions for our gun problem in this country. With a $100 gift, Free Speech TV t-shirt, with the viewer design. With a $200 gift, it's the hoodie, the Free Speech TV hoodie. With the $360 gift, you get all of the above. With a $500 gift, come to a webinar here, that I'm putting together on resolving fear, anxiety, stress, and trauma. And this is, how to get control of and heal from fear, anxiety, stress, and trauma using the deep techniques that go back to the 1700s and more modern strategies developed by Milton Erickson and Richard Bandler, dealing with pains in the past and fears about the future, resolving trauma, letting go of triggers in our lives, all these sorts of things. That's with a $500 gift. With a $1,000 gift, come to Portland and, hang out for the last hour of our program, and I'll take you to lunch. It's actually, I really like those. It's really, in fact, there's a couple people who've done it more than once, and it's always nice to see them again too. Some of them have, I think of them as friends. It's nice to get to know you, to get to know the people who are watching this program and care about this program and are willing to support our program and Free Speech TV. So that's with a $1,000 gift. The number is 877-378-8669. We're talking about keeping Free Speech TV on the air, literally. I mean, your contributions are paying the electric bill, the light bill, the salaries and things, the satellite connectivity bills, and they are not small, but they are not wildly out of control. So, A, we're talking about keeping Free Speech TV on the air, but B, we're also talking about supporting the programs on Free Speech TV and the guests and the issues and all the other things that you get introduced to via Free Speech TV. So this is a way of supporting basically a lot of the realm, the sphere of stuff that we as progressives care about. 877-378-8669. Thank you so much.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Greetings, my friends, patriots, lovers of democracy, truth and justice, believers in peace, freedom, and the American way. Thom Hartmann here with you. You can't turn on a TV news channel these days, or at least a cable TV news channel, without seeing some TV pundit. And in fact, this morning I saw the TV host, Stephanie Ruhle, going off on this whole thing about how Democrats need to move to the middle. What the hell does that mean? I mean, do they mean the Democrats should say it's just fine that 30 million Americans have no health insurance? Do we love the big banks making? I think they just made $230 billion in profits, the best year they ever had, while ripping us off and putting our economy at risk. Is that what move to the middle means? The status quo? Oh, things are just fine the way they are. Let's just make little tiny tweaks. Is that what they're talking about? I don't get it. I listened to this conversation that Stephanie Ruhle was having with a Republican consultant who was saying, yes, the Democrats need to move to the middle, and a genuine progressive, and I'm sorry his name is not coming to the top of my head right now, who was trying to push back, but he really didn't want to piss off the host, right? The first rule of being a panelist on TV is don't disagree too strongly with the host. And she kept saying, but if they move to, it's all about the people who voted for Obama and then voted for Trump. Well, let me get back to that in just a minute. Does move to the middle mean that the fossil fuel and chemical industry should continue to poison us and our planet? I mean, is it just fine that the drug companies and for-profit colleges and charter schools are literally ripping us off to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars a year, transferring that money out of the pockets of working people, the middle class, retired people, young people, and into the pockets of billionaire CEOs? Is it just fine that the American dream is dead? That for the first time, literally in the history of the United States, a generation is not going to do better than their parents? Is that what these people mean when they say Democrats need to move to the middle? That there's no reason, there's no need to bring, we don't need union jobs back? Is that what they say? Is that what they're talking about? Is Sherrod Brown's call for protectionist trade policies only doing it the right way through Congress instead of some stupid presidential proclamation and trying to negotiate with the president of China who's going to eat your lunch? Is that too far out for these guys? I mean, what the hell is the setter beyond the status quo? And if it's the status quo, who wants it? The logic that I think I was getting from what I was seeing on television this morning, and I've been hearing, this was the first time I saw it, from one of the hosts. Actually, not the first time. I've heard Chuck Todd say the same thing, who's not, identified politically, right? He's supposed to be a real reporter. And of course, you hear it from, people who are former Republicans or current Republicans. They're all telling Democrats, move to the middle, move to the middle. And like I said this morning, the argument was, well, what about those people who voted for Obama and then voted for Trump? Well, what was the signature call for action, essentially? What was the motto back in 2008 and then again in 2012? What was the motto of the Obama campaign? Change. Hope and change. Change is radical. Change is not status quo. Now, tragically, Barack Obama was stuck with a Republican-controlled House and Senate for most of his presidency. I get it that for the first 2 years the Democrats held the House, held the Senate, but there was, and they actually did control the House for quite a bit of that time. But my point is that there were only 72 days there where they had a veto-proof Senate, and that's when they passed Obamacare. And, about a dozen other pieces of really significant legislation. But when people voted for Obama, he was not the middle, in my opinion. They thought they were voting for a liberal. He was campaigning on, let's make universal health care. And that's what he tried to bring about with Obamacare. He was campaigning on, we're going to do something about these banksters. When he got in, he discovered, essentially, I don't know if he couldn't do it or if he didn't think that he had the political capital or it wasn't, in his the fire in his belly or whatever, but, he never did anything about the banks. But it was about change. And I would say, I would strongly argue, here, my pushback on this argument that I was hearing this morning on MSNBC, that I hear all the time, actually, frankly, across, political talk shows, and that the Republicans are really trying to push. Because, in my opinion, because they know that if the Democratic candidate is same old, if it's somebody from the new Democrat coalition, if it's a recycled Bill Clinton, basically, the Democrats will lose. Donald Trump will eat their lunch, our lunch, in my opinion, if we don't have somebody who is either a solid, true progressive, which so far looks to me like Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, or somebody who has embraced solid, true progressive positions and done so in an intellectual framework, in an understanding of what social democracy is and democratic socialism is. They may not like using that word, that phrase, and I get that. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. If that's going to increase your chances of winning, do what you got to do. But this whole move to the middle thing, this is just complete horse crap in my mind. I mean, I don't. And how anybody who wants the Democrats to win could be listening to the Republicans' advice on this blows my mind. And then on top of that, you got, oh, well, what about that socialism word? We're scared to death of that. 1988, George Herbert Walker Bush said of Michael Dukakis, quote, with the American tradition of entrepreneurship and free enterprise at the very moment when other government, he said Dukakis broke with the American tradition of entrepreneurship and free enterprise at the very moment when other world governments are abandoning socialism. There's this great piece on Think Progress today, the 90-year history of Republicans calling Democrats socialists, and thus telling Democrats, move to the middle, please. Paul Ryan, quote, Social Security right now is a collectivist system. Excuse me. Barry Goldwater was actually a pretty good friend of Lyndon Johnson. They were two of the most powerful men in the United States Senate. And that association kind of transcended their political differences. And he wrote a letter, he wrote a letter to Lyndon Johnson when Jack Kennedy offered him the vice presidency saying, please do not join John Kennedy's socialist presidential ticket. Quote, I still have a numb feeling of despair over your actions of yesterday in accepting the candidacy for vice president. It's difficult to imagine a person like you. This is Goldwater writing to Johnson. Friends. It's difficult to imagine a person like you running in a second spot to a weaker man, but it is even more incredible to try to understand how you are going to try to embrace the socialist platform of your party. That was 1960. 1960. John McCain in 2008. St. John. He says, Obama wasn't just a socialist, he was also a liar. At least in Europe, said McCain, the socialist leaders who so admire my opponent are upfront about their objectives. So what is this? I mean, what are we talking about? Ronald Reagan. This was back in 1967 when LBJ was pushing through Medicare. And Ronald Reagan did this recording for the American Medical Association. All of us can see what happens once you establish the precedent that the government can determine a man's working place and his working methods, determine his employment. From here, it's a short, well, he starts out, the doctor begins to lose freedoms. First you decide that the doctor can have so many patients. They're equally divided among the various doctors by the government, but then the doctors aren't equal. He goes to, and once you establish the precedent that the government can determine a man's working place, his working methods, determine his employment, from here it's a short step to all the rest of socialism, to determining his pay. And pretty soon your son won't decide when he's in school, where he will go, or what he'll do for a living. He'll wait for the government to tell him where he'll work. One of these days, he said, if you do not stop Medicare, socialist Medicare, this is Ronald Reagan in 1967, if we do not stop socialist Medicare, one of these days you and I are going to spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in America when men were free. Newt Gingrich, when Bill Clinton presented Hillary Care, which was, kind of a pretty decent plan. It was sort of a variation on basically Obamacare. Newt Gingrich takes the floor of the House and says, Bill Clinton's health care plan is socialism, now or later. It's a plan to, quote, seize control of the health care system and centralize power in Washington. During Dwight Eisenhower's administration. See, these are all the examples of Republicans telling Democrats, move to the middle, stay away from that changey stuff, stay away from that socialism, oh my God. President Dwight Eisenhower's Secretary of Health, Education, and Welfare, Oveta Kolb-Habbe, denounced the Democratic plan to provide free polio vaccines to children. Now, I remember this. I was, in elementary school in the 1950s when Dwight Eisenhower was president. And in school, we lined up and we took the sugar cube, and then later on we lined up and we took a shot for polio. And it ended polio. It was free. And she said, this is a backdoor leading to socialized medicine. This was Eisenhower's HEW secretary. Going back before that, 1945, when Harry Truman proposed a single-payer health care system. Yes, President Harry Truman proposed the first national single-payer health care system. The American Medical Association said this is, quote, socialized medicine, and Truman's White House staffers are followers of the Moscow party line. They distributed 55 million pamphlets featuring a fabricated quote attributed to Vladimir Lenin saying, quote, socialized medicine is the keystone to the arch of the socialist state, or the communist state. Before that, you had the American Liberty League. And now we've got, Mike Pence telling CPAC last weekend, America will never be a socialist country. Mitch McConnell, America needs strong borders, not socialism. What do you think these people are talking about when they say the center? Can somebody please identify this for me? I don't get it. Does it mean that we're just supposed to go with Democratic politicians who take a lot of money from big corporations who are there because of pharma or high tech or something?
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Does centrist in the center mean, Democratic politicians who are beholden to special interests? Or just ones who are in favor of the status quo, which is kind of the same thing? And welcome back. Pam, watching Free Speech TV in Easton, Pennsylvania. Hey, Pam, what's on your mind?
Yes, the reason I'm calling, I love your show, and you come to us in the East at around 12 o'clock, and before that I watched the Stephanie Miller show, and prior to that, in the morning while I'm getting my chores done, I normally watch a C-SPAN in the morning, the Washington Journal,
right.
And normally I like to, listen to what the topic is and what the people are, what the people are saying. The regular viewers,
right.
Because that's what we want to hear. I don't hear any of the other TV. I mean, we don't have, we just don't listen to cable at all. So now, on Monday, they had this topic that, they were questioning an article by somebody who's a Fox a contributor. His name is Mark Penn. He used to be the Democratic strategist.
Yeah, Mark Penn used to be the Clinton pollster.
Whatever. He was with the Hillary Clinton thing.
Yeah.
And he said something which really angered me a lot. He said that it's very dangerous for the Democrats to move all the way to the left. I mean, for what irritated me most was the fact that even something like C-SPAN could put up this article, put up this person for a question, and that, they keep this, all these people are coming out of the woodworks trying to criticize Bernie, trying to say that we have to be centrist, we have to be, that only if that happens, then it's very dangerous and Trump will win if we go too far to the left.
Right.
And it's just the opposite. And that I kept thinking, am I thinking wrong? Am I thinking wrong? Is something wrong with me that even mainstream media is talking like this? Even C-SPAN is talking like this?
Yeah.
That is why I said, let me talk to somebody who's very sane and who understands the situation.
Yeah, well, thank you. Pam, I'm sorry, finish your thought.
Yeah, so basically, this is basically why are these people getting a platform in the first place is my main concern, And
I think my personal guess is, Pam, that in the minds of the television executives and maybe even the C-SPAN executives, certainly in the minds of wealthy people in America, and that would be, the people who own C-SPAN and run C-SPAN, some of them anyway, certainly on the big networks. They like the status quo. They don't want the taxes raised on rich people. That's them. They don't want taxes raised on corporations. So I get it. C-SPAN's not for profit. But Mark Penn's been a shill for this stuff ever since. I mean, he's an old DLC guy, right? Al Frum and Bill Clinton put this thing together in '92, where the Democratic Party has to start taking hundreds of millions of dollars from big corporations. We just have to make sure that they're the right corporations, the good corporations, and thus we had centrism, right? And what did that? How did that advance America? Through the Clinton and Obama presidencies? I mean, I get it. Clinton embraced it. Obama was stymied. I get that. But it seems to me like the Republicans know that if Donald Trump, as an agent of change, runs against a same old Democrat, a Joe Biden type Democrat, that he's going to kick their ass, and that's what they want. And, maybe the media wants 4 more years of Trump because it's great for the media. I mean, media profits are through the roof right now. People are watching TV like they never were before. Every day they turn it on to say, well, did Trump blow up the world today? But I don't know the motives of C-SPAN, but I agree with you. This is crazy stuff. Pam, thank you for the call. I would like to add one more topic to our conversation. By the way, AOC's Green New Deal, the Job Creators Network, a.k.a. We're the Billionaires, has put up a billboard, a digital billboard in Manhattan's Times Square. That's, I mean, this is nuts. It says, "Hey, AOC, you're the boss," in quotes. "We don't think so. The American people are the boss." And then it's got a website, a link to a website that's criticizing the Green New Deal. Right? See, why do you think that the billionaires are fighting against the Green New Deal? Why would they be fighting against putting people back to work? Because they want a centrist. They want somebody who's going to say, things are fine just the way they are. Canada can have free health care or inexpensive health care. They can have Medicare for all. Europe can have Medicare for all, but we can't have that here in the United States. That's too extreme for our people. Even though the polls show 80% of Americans would like it. We can't have, strong regulations that'll lock down and regulate the oil companies. That's just too extreme. I mean, other countries might do that, but we can't do that here. Are you serious? So anyhow, there's that going on. The other thing I wanted to mention is Paul Waldman today in the Washington Post has a piece. It's titled "The Dishonest Smearing of Ilhan Omar." And I absolutely agree with this. And again, AOC has tweeted about this. Omar is criticizing the policies of Israel. About half of Israel is criticizing the policies of Israel. Read Haaretz, the Israeli newspaper. You can see it online. It's the liberal newspaper in Israel. Criticizing the policies of another country doesn't make you an anti-Semite. Not even remotely. In fact, if you're criticizing those policies because you think they're not good for Israel, I would say it makes you, a supporter of both Israel and, the people who live there, who are by and large Jewish. So, this bizarre resolution that the House is going to vote on by way of slapping Ilhan Omar, and AOC is saying, hey, wait a minute. We criticize the policies of all kinds of government. I mean, we're criticizing the policies of Saudi Arabia and murdering an American journalist. Does that make us anti-Muslim? Well, you could argue that Trump is, but Trump uses anti-Islam as a political weapon. But who's he sucking up to in the Middle East? The guy who murdered Khashoggi. By the way, now there's a question. Was Khashoggi's murder the result of American intelligence that Jared Kushner shared with the Crown Prince? It appears that there's a number of people that Saudi Arabia arrested, tortured, imprisoned, and in some cases even murdered, including Khashoggi. Apparently, now, this is, I hope the Senate or the House can get to the bottom of this. Apparently, because Jared Kushner gave him the list, gave him American intelligence that Kushner never should have had access to. The New York Times, a piece by Cheryl Gray Stolberg, by the way, today, a great one. The House's anti-Semitism resolution exposes generational fight over Ilhan Omar. There's so much here. Right? There's so much here. The socialism, the center, how Omar is being trashed, the power of AIPAC in American politics. I don't know of any other country that has something that is the equivalent of that. I'm not saying it shouldn't be there. I'm not saying they shouldn't be able to speak out. But to criticize AIPAC or Israel is not anti-Semitism. And to call it that is, in my opinion, simply wrong. So anyhow, a lot on the table. We'll pick up your calls after the break.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
It's the program where we dare to ask, is Walmart a person? And we dare to say, no way. Come on, give me a break. Three weeks and 2 days of fundraising every single day seems like a lot. And, you know, I totally get that, and it is. But unfortunately, that's what it takes to eventually, you know, kind of get some people to say, all right, you got me, you know. I'm still watching, and I want this damn fundraiser to end. So I'm going to call and give some money. 877-378-8669. And thank you to the folks. We hit our $10,000 goal yesterday, actually, our daily goal. In fact, we hit 12,000, which is great because the day before was $530. And, you know, it's not enough to keep anybody on the air. And so we need to do that again today, or at least the 10 grand. Please, although we're considerably behind from last week. We had, you know, one exceptionally good day when we had a match, but other than that, it's been a very, very weak pledge drive up to this point. And, you know, as I've said before, I get it that, you know, every politician on earth is asking for money, and there's a lot of great organizations out there that need help. And these are critical times that we live in. They're dire times. But that's precisely why it's so important to support Free Speech TV. You know, when we put on this program Lori Wallach on, you know, from publiccitizenstradewatch.org, or Greg Pallas, the investigative journalist, or, I mean, you know, fill in the blanks, you know who our regular guests are. In a way, we're supporting them. You know, they're representing organizations that are constantly asking for money, you know, engaged in outreach. And by putting them on the air, we're elevating their visibility and helping their fundraising efforts, which is a good thing. I'm saying that that's a good thing. So in that context, in that way, by helping Free Speech TV, you're also helping all these other organizations that pop up on Free Speech TV, all the other groups that you'll see on Sonali's show and Stephanie's show and Amy's show and on and on. I mean, you know, David's show. That it's media is, you know, that kind of this complex thing, and it's got all this stuff to it, and it has consequences far beyond just, oh, it's the Thom Hartmann Program kind of thing. You know, it's and so by helping Free Speech TV, you literally are helping all those other groups. You're putting them in front of literally, you know, millions of people, and that's a great thing. So please call now, 877-378-8669. With a $20 gift, you get the Free Speech TV flag lapel pin. With a $60 gift, you get the Free Speech TV set of stickers, the 6-sticker design pack. With a $72 gift, you get my new book, which is, the release date is June 7th, but we're hoping we can get copies in late May to be able to, you know, I'll sign book plates for them, and they'll put them in the books, and so you'll have autographed copies of them. The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment. And I think I've described before to you, this is, in my opinion, a major book. I put a lot of work into this book, and it's really the culmination of years of research. And I think you're going to find it absolutely fascinating. It's got some really good solutions for our gun problem in this country. With a $100 gift, Free Speech TV t-shirt with the viewer design. With a $200 gift, it's the hoodie, the Free Speech TV hoodie. With the $360 gift, you get all of the above. With a $500 gift, come to a webinar here, you know, that I'm putting together on resolving fear, anxiety, stress, and trauma. And this is, you know, how to get control of and heal from fear, anxiety, stress, and trauma using the deep techniques that go back to the 1700s and more modern strategies developed by Milton Erickson and Richard Bandler, dealing with pains in the past and fears about the future, resolving trauma, letting go of triggers in our lives, all these sorts of things. With a that's with a $500 gift. With a $1,000 gift, come to Portland and you know, hang out for the last hour of our program, and I'll take you to lunch. You know, it's actually, I really like those. It's really, in fact, there's a couple people who've done it more than once, and it's always nice to see them again too. Some of them have, you know, I think of them as friends. They're you know, it's nice to get to know you know, to get to know the people who are watching this program and care about this program and are willing to support our program and Free Speech TV. So that's with a $1,000 gift. The number is 877-378-8669. We're talking about keeping free speech TV on the air, literally. I mean, your contributions are paying the electric bill, the light bill, the salaries and things, the satellite connectivity bills, and they are not small, but they are not wildly out of control. So, you know, A, we're talking about keeping free speech TV on the air, but B, we're also talking about supporting the programs on free speech TV and the guests and the issues and all the other things that you get introduced to via free speech TV. So this is a way of you know, supporting basically a lot of the realm, the sphere of stuff that we as progressives care about. 877-378-8669. Thank you so much.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. By the way, I just got another fundraising pitch from Donald Trump, or from Trump Pence. You know, it's you know, on behalf of it's from Team Trump 2020, and I just retweeted a little piece of it. You can't put the whole thing into a tweet, but so I'll read it to you. Fred, because, you know, I'm on his mailing list as Fred Flintstone. Fred, over the past couple of weeks, Democratic presidential candidates have been unveiling their 2020 strategy, and it's terrifying, in all caps underlined. Just look at their main talking points. 90% proposed tax rate. I think it's 70, actually. Wide open borders. There's literally not a single Democrat in America who is calling for wide open borders. The libertarians are. You know, that was Ron Paul's position. Cheap labor, but no Democrats. Full-term abortion. In other words, you know, kill a baby as it's being born. Nobody's calling for that. Ripping away Second Amendment rights. No. Government-run health care. No, government-funded health care. And full-blown socialism. This isn't a joke, Fred. This is actually what Democratic presidential candidates are running on in 2020, and we need to know what you think about this, Fred. That's why we've decided to launch the official 2020 Democratic Candidate Platform Survey to see what American voters think about this radical left-wing agenda. Please click here to take the official 2020 Democratic Candidate Platform Survey by 11:59 p.m. tonight. And of course, when you click on it, it takes you to the fundraising page. But this is what they're doing. Right? This is, I mean, literally all lies. And so, you know, I think that we have to say, okay, they're going to call us socialists. To hell with it. With them. I mean, you know, blank them if they can't take a joke. It's just, they've been calling us socialists since 1945. In fact, they were quite the Liberty League back when FDR was president. In fact, back during Teddy Roosevelt's presidency, they were screaming, and he was a Republican, they were screaming that his trust busting was socialism. Enough already. I don't care what words they use. We are going to stand by our positions. Bill in Sebastian, Florida. Hey, Bill, what's on your mind?
Yeah, good afternoon, Tom. I agree with you wholeheartedly. It seems to me as though these Republicans, they just embrace misery and they embrace ignorance. And a good example of that would be Utah. They recently were awarded the Medicaid status, but the legislature voted it down.
Right.
Now, just to deprive citizens, middle and low-class citizens of...
yeah, and wasn't that passed by ballot initiative? Didn't the people vote for that, and then the legislature said, no, we're going to dial this back?
Yeah, exactly.
If I'm remembering that correctly?
I heard that on your show, Tom, yeah. And that's just an awful thing. And the same goes for Georgia, the same goes for Florida. They were awarded Medicaid by the federal government, and they decide, no, we're not going to give it to the citizens of the states, of these two states. And
because it's socialism,
yeah, I know. And it's progressive, and it's common sense policy. And this is what the Republicans just don't want.
Right.
And look at the unemployment insurance. You know, they wouldn't extend the unemployment insurance when people were being laid off all the time.
Oh, the Republicans cut that back during the Obama administration when he lost control of Congress. They cut it back from 2 years to 1 year.
I know.
And this is this is the bottom of a recession. The Republicans are saying to unemployed Americans, "Screw you." Right? And it got almost no coverage in the media. I mean, it just blew my mind. Bill, I need to move along, but thank you for the call. I would love just once to see one of these TV preachers, basically, one of these TV people who pretend to be news people. They're not Walter Cronkite, I promise you. They are not Amy Goodman. They're not even Wolf Blitzer. Wolf Blitzer generally doesn't do these so-called panels. He just reports the news by and large. One of the reasons more and more I would be checking him out from time to time. But I would just love to, just once, have, if there's an actual progressive on a panel and the host says, well, shouldn't the Democrats move to the center? Say, what the hell are you talking about? What is this center you're talking about? Would you please define that for me? Do you mean we should ignore what the vast majority, I'm talking the supermajority, more than, this is, you know, I did this yesterday, the oppression of the supermajority, this piece by Tim Wu. 75% of Americans favor higher taxes on the ultra-wealthy. Paid maternity leave, 67%, 83% net neutrality, 71% we should be able to buy drugs from Canada, 92% want Medicare to negotiate lower drug prices, and it goes on. I mean, that's in yesterday's New York Times. And still this morning I'm seeing a TV host going, well, we can't have liberal change. I mean, we can't go all the way to the left, can we? That's where America is. Brent in Hilliard, Ohio. Hey, Brent, what's up?
Hey, Tom, thanks for taking my call. Normally, I feel like you and I line up pretty strong, but I guess I'm a centrist Democrat because I share the fear of the political pundits of which you're speaking. So I'm not certain that we're under, that maybe the centrists are failing at articulating what we're saying. And so I'm going to give it a shot.
Okay.
I think change is much like a train that has a bend in the track. And if the train is traveling too fast for the bend, it will surely derail. It's not that a centrist Democrat such as myself doesn't desire the same ends that you or more progressive folks do. It's that we believe utilizing extremely fast means will have unintended consequences far worse.
Well, what you're defining, Brent, is my dad's Republican Party. I mean, William Buckley famously said a conservative is a man who stands astride the arc of history with his hand up, shouting "stop" or at least "slow down." And you know, that was my dad's argument always. You know, yes, we want progressive change, but you do it step by step. And women heard that for 150 years in this country. African Americans are still hearing that in this country. Gay people are still hearing that in this country. 30 million people, and now it's down to 24 million people a year are dying in the United States for lack of health care, and they're being told, well, we just have to do it gradually. You've got 40% of Americans who literally would be wiped out, and many of them homeless if they had a $400 expense, and 60% of Americans who couldn't handle a $1,000 expense, and they're all being told, well, we just have to do this slowly and carefully. Brent, I think slow and careful. I mean, that was the sales pitch that we got from Bill Clinton, from George Bush, and from Barack Obama, and Americans are over it. That's why they elected Donald Trump. Yes, please, go for it.
Okay, so while it is true that, you know, you mentioned women fought for this for many years. That's true, and it did take an awful long time, but we did get there. We did get them through women's suffrage and get them the right to vote.
But Elizabeth Cady Stanton Elizabeth Cady Stanton was arrested, as was Susan B. Anthony, arrested for voting in 1887, I think it was. Maybe it was 78. No, it was 1887. And you know, for illegally voting. I mean, you know, they died never seeing that.
You speak often of Teddy Roosevelt, and in 1912, when he kind of founded the Bull Moose Party after he failed to take the Democrat nomination.
The Republican nomination, yeah.
Yeah, I apologize. You're right. He was a Republican.
Yeah.
I mixed that up.
But he was a progressive, so keep going.
He was a very progressive Republican. He founded the Bull Moose Party, and then he did not allow blacks in the southern portion to help define his platform, but he did in the North, and that drew outrage from Southern blacks, and rightly so. But he said, and there's a great book about it, and I can't think of the title, but he says in there, you sometimes must take a back seat to further your cause. And that's an important thing.
I understand the principle, Brent, and I understand that it has taken us as a nation 240 years, more or less, to get to where people of color in this country are even remotely close to anything that looks like equality, where women in this country still don't have an equal rights amendment, where gay people in this country are still being, and particularly trans people, being, trashed and killed and discriminated against wildly, where, and it's been over 100 years, since Teddy Roosevelt first started talking about a national health care program. The first one in the world was in 1881 in Germany, and it created quite a stir. There was a conversation in the United States about that started in the 1890s, and Teddy Roosevelt talked about it. Franklin Roosevelt suggested it. Harry Truman actually put it out as legislation, and everybody screamed it's socialism. We still don't have it. It just seems to me like, I guess here's my question for you, Brent, as a centrist. What the hell is wrong with America? Why can Canada in the 1960s roll out a Medicare for All program and it works just fine? They did it nationwide in 1 year. Why is it that every other advanced democracy, the other 33 of the 34 countries of the OECD, why is it every single other one of them has, if not free college, the equivalent of very, very cheap college? Nobody has college debt of any consequence at all. As we learned from my debate earlier in the week, with Charles Sauer. They have no tuition-based debt, none, anywhere in the world except the United States, developed world. Why? I mean, just to pick two topics. What's wrong with us?
Sure.
Why do we have to wait?
The honest answer to that is because we allow conservatives to own extremely dangerous weapons. That's the reason we have to wait.
You mean we're afraid of people shooting us?
Yes, of course. The truth is the Second Amendment radically supports the status quo, because if you upset these people, they're likely to turn up guns and kill their neighbors.
Brent, if that's the case, the FBI needs to be on it. And frankly, I think that there is we know white nationalist, white supremacist terrorists have killed more people in the United States than any other group since the 1960s, and it's just a fact. And the left wing. Extremist threats pretty much non-existent, although the police are constantly looking for them. But that's no reason not to say that our presidential candidates and the people that we want to elect to Congress and the Senate should be supporting the same stuff that every other advanced country in the world has. High standards for the EPA, national health care, national free college education. Brent, thank you for the call, and thanks for a good faith effort to change my mind. It didn't work. Good try. We'll be back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
We'll be right back with more of your calls right after this. It's 46 minutes past the hour. And welcome back. Oh, that's two. Let's see here. Steve, watch us on Free Speech TV in Phoenix, Arizona. Hey, Steve, what's on your mind?
Yeah, I really like it when you go off on these topics with passion, Tom. I could listen to you all day.
Thank you.
I'm so mad at this stuff too. We've been taking a back seat for 40 years with Reaganism and stuff. And this Stephanie Rule person on MSNBC, she used to be a corporate vice president.
Yeah, well, I called her out. I probably shouldn't have called her by name. Let's not talk about her. She's not here to defend herself. Let's just keep to the principles, okay, Steve? My apologies. Okay. That's my fault.
Well, a lot of these people, they're very highly paid. They're also taking marching orders, from their bosses at the news organizations, and it's all about the taxes. They don't want their They don't want their taxes raised, and that's all it is. Socialism is not communism. They talk about socialism. Well, socialism is not communism. It's nothing of the sort. And I think Bernie and Elizabeth need to expound on this every time they get a chance to.
Yeah.
And
well, I'm not sure that Elizabeth Warren uses that word. I think Bernie is. I think Bernie's the only one who says that openly that he'll refer to himself either as a socialist or a democratic socialist. But I get what you're saying.
Right. We can't back off from it. We have to explain exactly how you do too about how it's the roads, it's the schools, it's the hospitals, it's everything else. And if Bernie, I don't know if he's doing that or not. I hear some of his rallies, but that's what needs to be conveyed to the American people because it's like we've said before. They're so busy going to work every day and stuff. They don't have time to even understand what's going on. And a lot of these people, a lot of these pundits on TV and stuff, some of them, they were born they've been living under Reaganism most of their lives too, and they don't even understand what life is like without it.
That's true. You see somebody on TV who's under 50, and they literally have no recollection of what America was like when working people actually were gaining income faster than rich people were. And there was a solid and strong American middle class among white people, and there was a growing middle class among African Americans. I mean, they literally just don't remember that time.
Yes, the Democrats, they helped, and the unions and stuff. They're the ones that brought us the 40-hour work weeks, and all those things. And as far as going incrementally and stuff, I mean, like the last caller was talking about and stuff. We didn't have a breakdown after Medicare was introduced by Lyndon Johnson. We didn't have a breakdown after FDR put in Social Security
and unionization.
Yes, none of that. We got stronger.
Yeah.
We got stronger as a country,
Yep.
and we need Medicare for all immediately. AOC is spot on with just about everything she is, and also one last thing I'd like to say is I'm tired of that persecution of that congressperson, Omar.
Ilhan Omar. Yeah.
Yeah. We've had a president who's committed more crimes. We'd have 12. There'd be like a whole lineup of presidents who'd be impeached with the stuff this one's gotten away with, and yet we're going off on this congressperson.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's extraordinarily unfair. Steve, thank you for the call. Thank you very much, and thanks for watching us there in Phoenix. We'll be back with more of your calls on this topic and some of the others here that I touched upon right after this. It's coming up on 10 minutes before the hour. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, and it's 10 minutes before the hour. Mark in San Diego. Hey, Mark, thanks for listening to us on TuneIn. What's up?
You got it, Tom. Listen, answer a question for me. How come nobody ever tells the Republicans to move to the center?
Yeah.
It's okay for them to run extremist candidates like Ronald Reagan back in the day and Donald Trump, but nobody ever tells them, those candidates are too extreme. They're not going to win.
Well, and George W. Bush, in 2005, after he won re-election, he said, I have earned political capital, and I'm now going to go out and spend it. And he gave over 30 speeches around the country about how important it was to turn Social Security over to the big banks and completely privatize it. And nobody called him an extremist.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, nobody ever tells that Republicans, hey, that candidate, Donald Trump, he can't win. You got to get somebody more centrist. You know what? If Donald Trump has done anything at all, he has proven that anybody can be elected president. Don't tell me that Bernie Sanders can't be elected president when Donald Trump was elected. Don't tell me that Elizabeth Warren can't be elected when Donald Trump was elected. And Donald Trump has proven that it doesn't make any difference. Anybody who comes out and speaks his mind, I mean, Trump has got a crazy mind, but at least he comes out and forcefully stands for what he stands for.
Yeah.
People respond to that. I call that the Harry Truman effect. Harry Truman said, faced with a real Republican against a fake Republican, the people will vote for a real Republican every time.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen. But nobody. Well, answer that question for me. How come nobody ever tells the Republicans to move to the center?
I think it's because most of the people in the media are Republicans and embrace the Republican perspective, and Democrats for some reason are reluctant to demonize and finger wag and stuff like that. Democrats are perfectly happy to call Trump corrupt or a crook or a mob boss or something, but to call his policies radical, they're afraid to do it. And it just
how much more radical can you get than his policies, for God's sakes?
Yeah.
I mean, you know what the Democrats need? They need a Harry Truman. They need somebody to come out there and tell it like it is. People respond to that. People do not like candidates who put their finger in the air and see which way the wind is blowing.
Yeah.
I mean, for all Donald Trump's faults, at least he comes out there and people respond to his no holds bar attitude. You got it. You can't have somebody that's wishy-washy. The Democrats.
No, you can't.
Somebody
in
out,
fact,
and I think Bernie Sanders is that guy.
Well, I think that there are several of them, and I'm not endorsing at this point, but we've got some great people. But here's an example of when Democratic politicians actually had passion. This is Ted Kennedy on the floor of the United States Senate when they were debating the minimum wage.
$240 billion in tax breaks for corporations, $36 billion in tax breaks for small businesses, increase in productivity, 42% over the last 10 years. But do you think there's any increase in the minimum wage? No. What is the price? We ask the other side. What is the price that you want from these working men and women? What cost? How much more do we have to give to the private sector and the business? How many $1 billion more are you asking? Are you requiring? When does the greed stop?
And apparently the answer is the greed never stops. It was $1.5 trillion year before last that we gave to them, Mark.
Somebody like that right now.
Yeah, we do. We do. Mark, I got to move along, but thank you for the call. Spot on. Van in Los Alamitos, California. Hey, Van, what's up?
Well, first of all, I think the Republicans are scared spitless. They're dead men walking.
And that's why they're trying to tell Democrats to walk into the DLC trap, basically, to go back to 1992 and start talking like Eisenhower Republicans.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
No secret.
I think you're absolutely right, Van. I think you are absolutely right. And what astonishes me is the Democrats are buying it. Winnie in Sun City, Arizona. Hey, Winnie, what's up?
Oh, hi, Tom. My first time calling.
Thank you.
I think they should have a bumper sticker out there that says, Jesus was a socialist.
Oh, I've seen that bumper sticker.
Have you really?
I have, yeah. It's been 20 years or so, but yes, that was a popular bumper sticker back in the 70s.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, let's redo it. My heavens.
Yeah, there you go.
Especially here in Arizona, I'm in Sun City with all these rednecks. They'd probably shoot me if I had it on my car. But I think that's a great one to have.
Yeah, amen. And socialism basically was Jesus's. In fact, communism really was Jesus's policies. Winnie, thank you for the call. Denise in Calumet, Michigan. We got a minute to the break, Denise, or at the end of the hour. What's up?
Hi, thanks for taking my call. You know something? All this stuff about the left moving to the center, you don't see the far right moving to the center. Yeah. They're never going to move to the center.
No, they're moving farther and farther to the right, actually.
Exactly.
Let's privatize all the schools. Betsy DeVos wants $6 billion to fund more charter schools to take down public schools.
It's all just a hoax. And you know something? I called every Democratic senator and congressman I knew last night up to calling and asked them to, like you said, rehabilitate socialism into what it really is today, with the planes and the infrastructure and the VA system and everything that it is. Or if they don't do that, Trump could win the re-election if they don't unify over this word.
Yeah. Yeah, well, not just the word. Helping people to understand that that word and these policies are the same thing. That these progressive policies, you can call them socialism, you can call it progressivism, you can call it the New Deal, you can call it the Green New Deal, you can call it whatever you want. When the policies are laid out, the majority of people say, yeah, I want that. Denise, thank you very much for the call. I appreciate it. Coming up next, Brian Pruitt from redstate.org is going to drop by. We're going to have an interesting debate about this issue.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. From you.
We say fight back!
Hey, over at ThomHartmann.com, we've got some really cool stuff. A lot of people don't realize that we produce a daily newsletter, and Sue puts we call it Sue's Daily Stack on there, which is literally a link to every story that I've talked about in the show. So all the research is right there. It's free. We don't share or sell our subscriber list. It's there's just it's there. It's there for you. And it's over at ThomHartmann.com. You can sign up for the free newsletter. You also can get my big picture take of the day, which is exclusively over at our website at ThomHartmann.com, as well as links to our videos, the book reports we typically do every day, all this stuff and more. It's all there at ThomHartmann.com. So check it out and sign up for our newsletter. I think you'll really enjoy it and appreciate it and find a lot of value there. We put a lot of work into this stuff. And you'll find it all right there on our website at ThomHartmann.com. And be sure to check out the newsletter and sign up for it. It's great. 3 weeks and 2 days of fundraising every single day seems like a lot. And, I totally get that, and it is. But unfortunately, that's what it takes to eventually, kind of get some people to say, all right, you got me, I'm still watching, and I want this damn fundraiser to end. So I'm going to call and give some money. 877-378-8669. And thank you to the folks. We hit our $10,000 goal yesterday, actually, our daily goal. In fact, we hit $12,000, which is great because the day before was $530. And, it's not enough to keep anybody on the air. And so we need to do that again today, or at least the 10 grand, please. Although we're considerably behind from last week. We had, one exceptionally good day when we had a match, but other than that, it's been a very, very weak pledge drive up to this point. And, as I've said before, I get it that, every politician on earth is asking for money, and there's a lot of great organizations out there that need help. And these are critical times that we live in. They're dire times. But that's precisely why it's so important to support Free Speech TV. When we put on this program Lori Wallach on, from publiccitizenstradewatch.org, or Greg Palast, the investigative journalist, or, fill in the blanks, who our regular guests are. In a way, we're supporting them. They're representing organizations that are constantly asking for money, doing engaged in outreach. And by putting them on the air, we're elevating their visibility and helping their fundraising efforts, which is a good thing. I'm saying that that's a good thing. So in that context, in that way, by helping Free Speech TV, you're also helping all these other organizations that pop up on Free Speech TV, all the other groups that you'll see on Sonali's show and Stephanie's show Amy's show and on and on. I mean, you know, David's show. That it's media is, you know, that kind of this complex thing, and it's got all this stuff to it, and it has consequences far beyond just, oh, it's the Thom Hartmann Program kind of thing. You know, it's and so by helping Free Speech TV, you literally are helping all those other groups. You're putting them in front of literally, you know, millions of people, and that's a great thing. So please call now, 877-378-8669. With a $20 gift, you get the Free Speech TV flag lapel pin. With a $60 gift, you get the Free Speech TV set of stickers, the 6-sticker design pack. With a $72 gift, you get my new book, which is, the release date is June 7th, but we're hoping we can get copies in late May to be able to, you know, I'll sign book plates for them, and they'll put them in the books, and so you'll have autographed copies of them. The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment. And I think I've described before to you, this is, in my opinion, a major book. I put a lot of work into this book, and it's really the culmination of years of research. And I think you're going to find it absolutely fascinating. It's got some really good solutions for our gun problem in this country. With a $100 gift, Free Speech TV t-shirt with the viewer design. With a $200 gift, it's the hoodie, the Free Speech TV hoodie. With the $360 gift, you get all of the above. With a $500 gift, come to a webinar here, you know, that I'm putting together on resolving fear, anxiety, stress, and trauma. And this is, you know, how to get control of and heal from fear, anxiety, stress, and trauma using the deep techniques that go back to the 1700s and more modern strategies developed by Milton Erickson and Richard Bandler, dealing with pains in the past and fears about the future, resolving trauma, letting go of triggers in our lives, all these sorts of things. With a that's with a $500 gift. With a $1,000 gift, come to Portland and you know, hang out for the last hour of our program, and I'll take you to lunch. You know, it's actually, I really like those. It's really, in fact, there's a couple people who've done it more than once, and it's always nice to see them again too. Some of them have, you know, I think of them as friends. They're you know, it's nice to get to know you know, to get to know the people who are watching this program and care about this program and are willing to support our program and Free Speech TV. So that's with a $1,000 gift. The number is 877-378-8669. We're talking about keeping Free Speech TV on the air, literally. I mean, your contributions are paying the electric bill, the light bill, the salaries and things, the satellite connectivity bills, and they are not small, but they are not wildly out of control. So, you know, A, we're talking about keeping Free Speech TV on the air, but B, we're also talking about supporting the programs on Free Speech TV and the guests and the issues and all the other things that you get introduced to via Free Speech TV. So this is a way of you know, supporting basically a lot of the realm, the sphere of stuff that we as progressives care about. 877-378-8669. Thank you so much.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, 6 minutes past the hour. As I mentioned in the previous hour, and we've been talking about basically for the last hour, you can't turn on a TV news channel, especially cable TV news these days, without hearing some TV pundit or panelist saying, oh, Democrats need to move to the middle. Especially Republicans saying this, although there are a few Democrats, and a lot of the, quote, reporters are saying this, and God only knows, you know, some of these so-called panelists, but what do they mean? Move to the middle. You know, are they trying to say, oh, it's just fine that 30 million Americans don't have health insurance, that 20 million Americans are dying every year because of that? Do they mean it's just fine that the big banks ripped us off to the tune of over $200 billion just last year? Do they mean that it's just fine that the fossil fuel chemical companies continue to poison us? It's just fine that there's over 240 coal-fired power plants that now have been documented to have contaminated the groundwater of the communities around them, in some cases for dozens of miles around them, and in some cases even more than that, with cancer-causing pollutants. Is it just fine for drug companies to rip us off, charter schools to rip us off? It's just fine that the American dream is dead along with unionism in the United States as a result of Reaganism? What the hell is the center that these Republicans are telling Democrats to move to, and some Democrats are telling Democrats to move to? I mean, this is the whole sales pitch that Bill Clinton gave us back in 1992 with the DLC and the New Dem coalition and the New Dem caucus in Congress and all this stuff. What the hell are they talking about? On the line with us is Brian Pruitt. He's a contributing editor to redstate.org. Redstate, is it .org or .com? I've got them both on the one sheet here, Brian. I'm sorry. .com. Thank you very much. Redstate.com. And people can tweet you at Brian, B-R-Y-A-N, Pruitt, P-R-U-I-T-T, or at Redstate. And Brian, as a conservative, as a Republican, and I've known you for years, and I think of you as a principled conservative and Republican. I have a lot of respect for you.
Thank you, sir.
Number one, I got two questions. And I'll just lay them both out, and you can take them in any order you want, and we can have a conversation about this,
sure.
Which may or may not be a debate. I don't know. Number one, when you hear TV pundits and Democrats, and for that matter, Republicans on TV saying, well, Democrats need to move to the center. You know, you can't go too far left. That's going to just kill things. What are they talking about, number one? Number two, why am I not hearing those same people telling Republicans, you guys need to move to the center? I mean, you know, all the things that, you know, you've got the EPA now, you know, hundreds of deregulations so far that you know, according to several studies, are going to cause thousands more cancers. You've got, you know, the selling off of public lands. You've got privatization of everything. You've got, you know, you had George Bush in 2005 literally traveling the country over 30 cities giving speeches saying that it's now, right now, 2005, time to privatize Social Security and hand it all over to the big banks in New York. Why didn't anybody say, well, gee, maybe he should move to the center? What am I missing here, Brian?
Well, I think I'll answer the second question first, and that is because Republicans won. That's the answer, the White House, and they have the Senate. So that's the quick and easy one. The answer to the first question is that is code. Move to the middle is code for when, you know, have the ability to win Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, and maybe Ohio.
But Bernie Sanders totally kicked Hillary Clinton's butt in those states. I mean, he wiped her out in Michigan. He took primaries. I'm sorry.
Those are primaries. You have to actually get. If you want to win, if Democrats want to win the presidency, they have to get back those Barack Obama voters that voted for Trump. That's the middle of the road folks that don't like things like Green New Deal, that don't like that don't cotton to ideas like free college tuition. That is code for be able to win the Midwest. Democrats have a lock on California, Oregon, Washington State, Massachusetts, all the way down to maybe New Jersey. But they don't have Middle America, the Mid-Atlantic, the southern states. And that's what that is code for.
I grew up in Michigan. I lived in the Midwest until I was 27 years old. And most of my family, virtually all of my family still lives there, and I'm in close contact with them. And I think you're reading this wrong, Brian. I don't think that Barack Obama campaigned as a centrist, and neither did Bill Clinton. I wrote a book about this. It's called Threshold: The Crisis of Western Civilization. Actually, just one chapter, in which I reprinted Bill Clinton's stump speech. It was called the New Covenant speech, and his New Covenant speech called for a national health care system, called for a national smart grid. I mean, Bill Clinton campaigned as a progressive and won. And then, as we all famously know now, a couple of weeks before he was sworn into office, Alan Greenspan and Jamie Dimon, and there was one other guy, I'm forgetting who it was, sat him down and said, son, you're going to kill yourself and you're going to kill your party if you govern based on what you just campaigned on. And Bill Clinton turned into a DLC Democrat, turned into the middle. And Barack Obama, he campaigned, Clinton campaigned as a progressive and won in all that middle America that you're talking about. Barack Obama campaigned as a progressive. Hope and change. The debate was, yes, we're going to have national health care. How do we do it? Exactly how do we do it? That was the debate between him and Hillary. Not should we do it? How do you do it? And change is radical. That was the core message of Barack Obama. The problem is he only had 74 days where he had a veto-proof Senate. And during those 74 days, he got a lot of progressive stuff done. I think that you're mischaracterizing middle America when you and I think that Bernie's victories, primary victories in these places that have been absolutely devastated by the Reagan trade policies, the so-called free trade. I think that those would translate into general election victories. I really, truly do.
Let me tell you the other reason that Democrats are worried about voting progressive, and that is a lot of Democrats, in their desire to win back the Senate, are depending on more moderate Republicans getting primary challenges from the right. We're talking about Lindsey Graham. We're talking about Ben Sasse. We're talking about Tom Tillis. We're talking about the majority leader himself. We're talking about Cory Gardner out in Colorado. Democrats are depending on an inter-party fight on the right to be able to weaken those candidates and potentially take over the Senate. If you have if Democrats continue to vote ultra progressive, even if they're show votes in the House that have no chance of passing the Senate, what it does is it gives heft to these vulnerable Republicans and probably prevents them from getting a primary challenge, thus letting them shore up their seats, and then you end up with the Senate remaining in Republican hands.
No, I get all that.
All the Democrats' grand plans depend on the Senate getting back in Democratic hands.
Yeah, well, and let's hope it happens, from my point of view. But again, I think your predicating assumption is that the independent voters, the average voters, and many Democratic voters are, quote, centrist when it comes to policies. Now, this is a 2-year-old study from but it was conducted by GBA Strategies. It was paid for by the Progressive Change Institute, so they defined the questions. But these are not Democratic or Republican voters. These are all voters, right? People who are actually voters, and 79% think that we should have some sort of a national health care program. Now, again, this is 2 years ago. I think the rates have actually gone up. 78% think that college should be free or close to free. 77% think we should have universal free pre-K. 75% want a trade policy that's going to protect our jobs, which, by the way, is what Trump campaigned on. There were several issues that Trump campaigned on. Number one, he was going to give us a national health care system that was better than Obamacare and cheaper and covered everybody, which is a progressive position. Number two, he said he was going to go back to the kind of trade policies we had before Reaganism, which is a progressive position. Sherrod Brown keeps winning elections and totally kicking ass in Ohio, even when Republicans win the governorship and things there on that position. 73% said ending gerrymandering. Medicare for all, 71%. This is kind of socialized medicine, 71%. End super PACs, 71%. Expand Social Security benefits, 70%. Free public college.
Things, all of those
These are all voters.
All of those policies. You're right. Of course, everybody likes free stuff. Everybody likes free stuff. Right until
I'm not talking about free stuff, Brian.
Tax rate.
I'm talking about fair stuff. I'm talking about the stuff that literally everything that I just listed is right now the way it is in Denmark and Sweden and Norway and Germany and France and Spain and Italy.
Thank God we're not them.
In Canada, for God's sake. Every one of those things I just listed is the way it is in Canada. Why would you say thank God we're not them?
Thank God we're not them. We are a unique country. We're
stupid?
Been. We don't want to be like
We want to be owned by the oligarchs and the billionaires?
Oh, come on now. I don't believe that. And what
is it that's unique about Americans that even though 80% of Americans want these things, as Tim Wu pointed out in the New York Times yesterday, he says 75% of Americans favor higher taxes to the ultra wealthy, paid maternity leave, 67%.
Which can't pay for any of those things. Ultra high taxes on the wealthy cannot pay for any of those things that you want. It requires higher taxes on low and middle income Americans.
I would be glad to pay I'm paying about $400 a month right now for health insurance. I would be glad to pay that in taxes instead of paying it to a for-profit insurance company. That's just for my Medicare copay thing.
That's not what all Americans want, and that's great.
I think it is.
If progressives want to pay extra to do something that is not imposed on the American people, so be it. But you're talking about policies that are going to be imposed on the American people by their government. That's very different.
Well, right now I'm having policies imposed on me that allow the Koch brothers to poison the air more aggressively. That cause me to have to give more money to United Healthcare. They're not my provider, but other people. For insurance policies, so that Stephen J. Hemsley can take home another $1 billion.
All those policy prescriptions are popular right until people find out how much they cost. That's the part of that. All of
these things are going to save us money, Brian. Free college produces a return on investment of 7 to 1, a 700% return on investment.
For really rich white kids.
No, for everybody.
Free college tuition.
My dad was not really rich. He was the son of immigrants. He went to college. Louise's dad was the first person in her family to go to college. And he ended up the assistant AG of Michigan because of the GI Bill.
The GI Bill is different. You're talking about free college tuition with zero requirements. It's a massive, massive giveaway to the rich.
Okay, we're wandering off topic, but anyhow, Brian, and we're also out of time. Brian Pruitt, contributor at redstate.com, and you can tweet him at Brian Pruitt, Bryan Pruitt. Thanks, Brian.
Tom, thank you.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It is nice talking with a conservative who actually is a thoughtful person and wants to have a serious conversation about the issues. I really appreciate that. And welcome back. Jared in Downingtown, Pennsylvania. Hey, Jared, what's on your mind?
Hello, Tom. It's time for a little history lesson about socialism. So the word socialist, it had a meaning prior to Marx, but eventually when Karl Marx came into the scene, the word effectively meant a transitional phase between capitalism and worldwide communism, the withering away of the state and the gradual adoption of communism. However, there was a split in the socialist movement. It was around the early 20th century, and there was two groups of socialists. There was one faction, the Social Democrats, who basically wanted to have a sort of a more moderate position and be elected in the government. So
this would be like Eugene Debs you're talking about?
Yeah, the German Social Democrat Party is a good example of this. They had Marxism in their platform until the 1950s, I believe, and Karl Marx was a part of the organizing of that, and because he believed that the revolution would come originally in Germany, and there was a revolution in Germany. However, this is the key point: the Social Democratic Party went into a right-wing deviation from the revolutionary socialist part of the socialist movement, which was people like Lenin.
Right, but that's in Europe, right? You're talking Germany and Europe. I mean, let's stick to America here.
Well, I mean,
or are you saying that the word has been redefined internationally?
I mean, like, what do you mean? I mean, the word hasn't been redefined. That's the point I'm getting at. But the word social democrat did get redefined. I mean, that is effectively what Bernie Sanders is. He is a social democrat. He believes in what the new definition of what it is welfare capitalism. And my problem is that with welfare capitalism, it doesn't change the power system of the capitalist state. So why is it that we have billionaires to begin with? Right. Why is it that we haven't nationalized all of the industries like oil or agro-farming? If you want to get rid of climate change, you can't have private industry anymore. What about imperialism?
You just don't have toxic private industry. I mean, what you're talking about, I call this regulated capitalism, and I'm a big advocate of it.
Well, we've tried regulated capitalism, Tom. Eventually, the capitalists will just
rise up and take over.
Kind of let it go for a while, and then they'll just unravel it. I mean, we're seeing that in Europe. We're seeing that in America.
So what's your alternative, Jared? Forgive me for moving you along, but we've got 26 seconds to the break.
Full worldwide communism. I think that capitalism is done. I think it's
Wait a minute. You want a worldwide version of what? Modern China?
No.
20th century Russia or Soviet Union?
No.
What?
No, I want.
Give me an example. One country that has done it successfully.
Well, I mean, the USSR prior to the 1980s had
Stalin was running a reign of terror, Jared.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that everything he did was bad, let's just say.
Okay, well, I get it, but okay. Jared, thank you for the call. Interesting. We'll be right back. Hey, over at ThomHartmann.com, we've got some really cool stuff. A lot of people don't realize that we produce a daily newsletter, and Sue puts we call it Sue's Daily Stack on there, which is literally a link to every story that I've talked about in the show. So all the research is right there. It's free. We don't share or sell our subscriber list. It's there's just it's there. It's there for you. And it's over at ThomHartmann.com. You can sign up for the free newsletter. You also can get my big picture take of the day, which is exclusively over at our website at ThomHartmann.com, as well as links to our videos, the book reports we typically do every day, all this stuff and more. It's all there at ThomHartmann.com. So check it out and sign up for our newsletter. I think you'll really enjoy it and appreciate it and find a lot of value there. We put a lot of work into this stuff. And you'll find it all right there on our website at ThomHartmann.com. And be sure to check out the newsletter and sign up for it. It's great.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. Well, it's an interesting conversation we're having here. Dan in Fremont, Indiana. Hey, Dan, what's on your mind?
Hello.
Hey.
This is right in my wheelhouse today. I'm messaging with my centrist Democratic friends about the very topic for days and days. More than a few are Michigan State grads, I might add.
Have any of them articulated in a clear and understandable fashion what, quote, centrism means on the Democratic side?
No. They buy into the DLC line still. It's just, I don't get it. How can Bernie get through to these guys? I mean, it's...
Well, one of the problems is the media is...
They'll vote for Bernie. Excuse me.
No, I was going to say that one of the problems is that the media is spoon-feeding this meme. I mean, they are shoveling this stuff out like shoveling it like back in the day when I used to shovel out horse stalls. I mean, they're just shoveling this stuff right at us.
They're all MSNBC viewers. I mean, and you know what we're getting from them.
Yeah, well,
I keep track of it.
I see it on CNN as well, and
sure.
And I'm guessing it's all over the media. It's certainly on the Sunday shows. This is the thing. Oh, how badly damaged will the Democratic Party be if they put a George McGovern in there? George McGovern lost every state but one, right? I mean, this has become conventional wisdom for the chattering class. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that this is 1972.
It isn't. No, it's a whole new deal. And it's, they're worried, they don't want Trump for 4 more years. Who does? But what about the direction of the party? Where's who's going to take us forward? And I think the vehicle's a Democratic Party.
It has to be. It has to be. We can't go third party. That's suicide. And it has to be solid, coherent, and well supported.
And it's getting better supported. The demographics are changing, but it's really going to be great. And they'll all come around. They'll all vote for.
But then what do we do about, I got this, I don't have it here in front of me, but I got this email from Donald Trump saying that the Democrats are campaigning on a platform of, quote, fully open borders. Here it is, right here. 90% taxes, wide open borders, full-term abortion, government-run health care, full-blown socialism. I mean, this went out to like 30, 40 million people, this email this morning.
Enables that crap.
Yeah. Well, I think our media is enabling that crap, frankly.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. Well. Dan, thanks a lot for the call. We'll be back. It's 27 minutes past the hour.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Defending America from the weapons of mass deception. Thom Hartmann here with you. Three weeks and 2 days of fundraising every single day seems like a lot. And, I totally get that, and it is. But unfortunately, that's what it takes to eventually, kind of get some people to say, all right, you got me, I'm still watching, and I want this damn fundraiser to end. So I'm going to call and give some money. 877-378-8669. And thank you to the folks. We hit our $10,000 goal yesterday, actually, our daily goal. In fact, we hit 12,000, which is great because the day before was $530. And, it's not enough to keep anybody on the air. And so we need to do that again today, or at least the 10 grand. Please, although we're considerably behind from last week. We had, one exceptionally good day when we had a match, but other than that, it's been a very, very weak pledge drive up to this point. And, as I've said before, I get it that, every politician on earth is asking for money, and there's a lot of great organizations out there that need help. And these are critical times that we live in. They're dire times. But that's precisely why it's so important to support Free Speech TV. When we put on this program Lori Wallach on, from publiccitizenstradewatch.org, or Greg Palast, the investigative journalist, or fill in the blanks, who our regular guests are. In a way, we're supporting them. They're representing organizations that are constantly asking for money, engaged in outreach. And by putting them on the air, we're elevating their visibility and helping their fundraising efforts, which is a good thing. I'm saying that that's a good thing. So in that context, in that way, by helping Free Speech TV, you're also helping all these other organizations that pop up on Free Speech TV, all the other groups that you'll see on Sonali's show and Stephanie's show and Amy's show and on and on. David's show. That it's media is, that kind of this complex thing, and it's got all this stuff to it, and it has consequences far beyond just, it's the Thom Hartmann Program kind of thing. So by helping Free Speech TV, you literally are helping all those other groups. You're putting them in front of literally, millions of people. And that's a great thing. So please call now, 877-378-8669. With a $20 gift, you get the Free Speech TV flag lapel pin. With a $60 gift, you get the Free Speech TV set of stickers, the 6-sticker design pack. With a $72 gift, you get my new book, which is, the release date is June 7th, but we're hoping we can get copies in late May to be able to, I'll sign book plates for them, and they'll put them in the books, and so you'll have autographed copies of them. The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment. And I think I've described before to you, this is, in my opinion, a major book. I put a lot of work into this book, and it's really the culmination of years of research. And I think you're going to find it absolutely fascinating. It's got some really good solutions for our gun problem in this country. With a $100 gift, Free Speech TV t-shirt with the viewer design. With a $200 gift, it's the hoodie, the Free Speech TV hoodie. With the $360 gift, you get all of the above. With a $500 gift, come to a webinar here, that I'm putting together on resolving fear, anxiety, stress, and trauma. And this is, how to get control of and heal from fear, anxiety, stress, and trauma using the deep techniques that go back to the 1700s and more modern strategies developed by Milton Erickson and Richard Bandler, dealing with pains in the past and fears about the future, resolving trauma, letting go of triggers in our lives, all these sorts of things. That's with a $500 gift. With a $1,000 gift, come to Portland and, hang out for the last hour of our program, and I'll take you to lunch. It's actually, I really like those. It's really, in fact, there's a couple people who've done it more than once, and it's always nice to see them again too. Some of them have, I think of them as friends. It's nice to get to know you, to get to know the people who are watching this program and care about this program and are willing to support our program and Free Speech TV. So that's with a $1,000 gift. The number is 877-378-8669. We're talking about keeping Free Speech TV on the air, literally. I mean, your contributions are paying the electric bill, the light bill, the salaries and things, the satellite connectivity bills, and they are not small, but they are not wildly out of control. So, A, we're talking about keeping Free Speech TV on the air, but B, we're also talking about supporting the programs on Free Speech TV and the guests and the issues and all the other things that you get introduced to via Free Speech TV. So this is a way of supporting basically a lot of the realm, the sphere of stuff that we as progressives care about. 877-378-8669. Thank you so much.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Republic. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen is testifying before the Homeland Security Committee. This should be being televised right now, in my humble opinion. One of the questions to her, the chair, Benny Thompson, asked if migrant children were still being held in cages, and she said, "Sir, they're not in cages." We're not going to go through the semantics, Thompson said. I saw the cyclone fences that were made as cages, and you did too. All you have to do is admit it. If it's a bad policy, then change it, but don't mislead this committee. Do not mislead this committee. And then Nielsen claimed, quote, "There was no parent who has been deported, to my knowledge, without multiple opportunities to take their children with them." According to the parents, that's a flat-out lie. Then they said, how many kids have died in custody? And she says, so far this fiscal year, we've had 3. And Nanette Berrigan, representative, says, so far? Madam Secretary, are you expecting more children to die? This is insane. It's just insane. Dawn in Norcross, Georgia. Hey, Dawn, what's on your mind? Dawn, you're on the air.
Tom. Yes. Hey. Hello. First of all, I'd just like to say I thought your guest that, from that redstate.net or whatever was rather ingenious. I did not think he had anything of value to really say. But I'd like to say something. You asked earlier why we can't have national health care, free tuition, why we can't have better schools and not support charter schools, or really any progressive ideas. And I'd say that's because our system is rigged, and you say that every single day. The rich have all the power. The people who represent us, even most of the Democrats, are part of the oligarchy. That's why they're so afraid of the new freshman class of U.S. representatives.
Yeah.
But until we get rid of our oligarchy and move back to our democratic republic, we'll never get any progressive ideas through. The likes of Chuck Schumer, who is nothing more than a Republican-like, they don't believe in progressive ideas. They're nothing more than Clintonites. and we have paid the price.
Oh, I think Chuck Schumer would love to see a lot of these things passed. I'm just concerned that he and a lot of his colleagues who would call themselves centrists, although Schumer is now calling himself a progressive, don't want the money to stop flowing from some of these giant industries and corporations.
Oh, you're absolutely right.
I mean, that's his job, is to raise money.
He is only calling himself a progressive because he thinks that is going to keep him where he needs to be. He saw what happened to Joe Crowley. He sees what's going on in New York. That is the one and only reason. He has never stood behind anything progressive.
But
until we, the people, will continue to pay the price. But in 2 to 3 years, when our economy crashes and 30 to 50% of the people in this country are homeless, nothing will change, Tom. You and I both know it. I'm in my 60s. I've lived through every one of them. I've watched everything. I listened to MSNBC. I listened to you guys. And until finally, my last statement, until we fix the Fourth Estate, the free media, we will continue to go down the drain. This is the United States of America that we have today.
Yeah. Dawn, I cannot argue with that. In fact, you're making points that I've made in the past. And I agree with you about the oligarchy. We have, rule by and for the rich, as Gillens and Page pointed out in that study from Columbia University, as Thomas Piketty has pointed out, as was pointed out by Richard Wilkerson and Kate Pickett. Kate Pickett was here on this program some time ago.
Right.
With this new book, The Something Level, The Inner Level, this equal to the spirit level. You're absolutely right. And to take down the oligarchy, you start with raising taxes on them, and then
I'm in total agreement.
Right, and then we need to pass a constitutional amendment that says that the Supreme Court was wrong in 76, when they kicked the doors open and said that if billionaires or corporations, it was 76 for billionaires, 78 for corporations, want to own politicians and have wholly owned subsidiaries that are politicians writing proposing legislation that's been written by the billionaires themselves, which is happening now more than on the Republican side almost all the time. Very little of this legislation is actually written by legislators anymore. It's written by lobbyists. We need to because the Supreme Court literally made this law. It was they took down a law that was passed on a bipartisan basis in the early 1970s, in 74 I think it was, after the Nixon scandals. That put campaign limits on and restricted corporate behavior and all this kind of stuff. And Citizens United even knocked out the 1904-1907 Tillman Act, which made it a federal felony for a corporation to give money to a politician. Until we take those things back, we are going to continue to have these stupid debates about, we need to move to the center, and you're too weird and liberal and far out if you think that we can be like Canada, et cetera, et cetera. Dawn, spot on. Thank you very much for the call. Eric in Weston, West Virginia. Hey, Eric, what's up? Thanks for watching us on YouTube, Eric. What's on your mind?
Yeah, like you, I'm 65, and I remember what this country used to be. And it seems to me, slowly but inexorably, the powers that be, the oligarchy, had just taken over step by step. I won't go so far to call it American fascism, but that's basically what I see what American capitalism has become. It's not nothing wrong with making a profit, but they are literally bleeding the middle class and the poor to death. Yeah. And it's just getting harder and harder to get along.
Yeah. I've seen studies suggesting that since Reagan dropped the top tax rate to today, more or less, I've seen 2 or 3 different studies that everybody's trying to figure this out, how much money has been transferred out of the pockets of the middle class and working people and into the pockets of the top 0.01%, the top 1/10 of 1%. And it looks, I've seen numbers as low as $12 trillion and as high as $30 trillion. And it's somewhere in there, and that's what's going on.
Eisenhower, he was a Republican. He wasn't no socialist Democrat. And I believe the top-tier tax rate when Eisenhower was president was 90%.
91%. You're absolutely right. Throughout his entire presidency. And he never complained about it. In fact, he thought it was a good thing. And he wrote to his brother Edgar when his brother Edgar was talking about you're being like a socialist and said, no, not going to happen. And Eisenhower campaigned for election in 52 and for his re-election campaign was really the big one in 56, where he pointed to what he had done in the previous 4 years. He'd added more than 2 million people to the union rolls. He had expanded Social Security benefits. He had put more than 1 million people on Social Security and made it eligible, made tens of millions of people, once they retired, eligible for Social Security who previously weren't. He expanded Social Security. I mean, and of course the hard right, the John Birch Society, referred to Dwight Eisenhower as a socialist or a communist. They more often called him a communist, which was more of a swear word back in that day. You're absolutely right, Eric. You're absolutely right. And thanks for watching us there in West Virginia. Paul in Honolulu, listening on KOYA. Hey, Paul, what's up?
Hi, are you talking to me?
I am. You're calling from Hawaii?
No, I'm not. I'm calling from Redding, California.
Oh.
But
well, the next time you call in, tell whoever answers the phone to fix the database.
Okay.
What's up?
Well, I just this centrist Democrat thing.
Mm-hmm.
The Democratic Party will never allow Bernie Sanders to have the nomination, and the reason is it's all about the money. Just like this young Muslim
Representative Omar,
congressperson, it's all about the money. You know, she is not defaming Israel. It's all about the money. And just as Bernie said, the Democrats would go down on the Titanic as long as they had a first-class ticket.
I've never heard Bernie say that.
Well, I've heard him say it.
Okay. Well, I get it. And I get what you're saying, and this, and Bill Clinton back in '92, and what I think was a good faith effort to rescue the Democratic Party from another, what was his name in '72? In any case, another, electoral wipeout, right? George McGovern, in order to try to avoid that kind of a situation, said, okay, we're going to have to embrace corporate money. And this was the DLC, which is now the New Dems. And I get that. I understand that. And back then you didn't have, online internet fundraising and a lot of the things that you have now. And there actually were laws in place that regulated cash to some small extent anyway. I mean, this was still post Buckley and First National Bank. But I really and truly believe the times have changed. And the good news, Paul, is that I believe the second largest caucus in Congress is the Progressive Caucus, and that they've got nearly 100 members out of the a little over 200 members, Democratic members of the U.S. House of Representatives. And the Democratic Party as a whole is moving in our direction. And I find that very hopeful. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The Democratic Party will not allow a progressive, somebody who will not allow them to eat at the trough of all this.
I don't think they can put their thumb on the scale anymore. Everybody was saying that the Republican Party would never allow a crazy man like Donald Trump to become their nominee, and look at what happened. Paul, respectfully, I hope you're wrong. I can't say I think you're wrong, but I hope you're wrong. Paul, thanks for the call, and thanks for listening to us in California there. It's 45 minutes past the hour. We're going to check in with Talk Media News in just a few minutes.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Back in 4 minutes with Ellen Ratner with Talk Media News. Stick around. And welcome back. Gary in Gravette, Arkansas. Hey, Gary, thanks for watching us on Free Speech TV. What's on your mind?
Hello, Tom. In talking about the Democratic Party, people trying to influence them to move towards the center, I think that would be a huge mistake.
Mm-hmm.
think the American public is demanding a radical change, and without the, and I think they would rather move towards the left than the right. But with what happened at the last election, and Clinton being in the middle, they moved to the most radical point they could. Even though I think that's partly because they know something is wrong, but they don't know specifically what is wrong with our government.
See, I think if Hillary Clinton had Bernie or somebody like him as her VP instead of Tim Kaine, if she'd gotten a progressive as VP instead of a so-called centrist, that instead of winning by 3 million votes, she would have won by 5 or 10.
Yeah. Well, I felt like because Bernie did not win the nomination, that the DNC felt that, and by being a part of that, they would prefer a Republican win than Bernie Sanders. And I just think that they feel that they
I have talked on this program to Tom Perez, who's the chair of the DNC right now, more times than I can remember, frankly. And he has never expressed a sentiment like that. I've had private conversations, a number of them with Keith Ellison back when he was running the DNC or co-chair of the DNC. Keith is just as progressive as Bernie. I think the Democratic Party is opening up and is open to this stuff. I really do. And Keith, of course, has had those conversations with me on the air here, too.
We certainly saw that in the last election, and nothing's given me more hope than some human beings finally being elected to Congress.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
I mean, I think that this election should point out that America is a subspecies of humanity, and that this election is more about the survival of humanity than anything else.
Well, we haven't even started talking about that, Gary. I mean, climate change. The Green New Deal is all about stopping climate change, which is an existential threat, not just to humanity in the long term, but to democracy and frankly to civilization over the short term. And that has to be at the center of the Democratic Party's position. And there are some people who are saying that's too radical. Some Democrats who are saying that's too radical for Democrats.
I know this. I think everything gets thrown at the Democratic Party as far as being socialist or being supposedly naive. I think we should embrace it. I think we should embrace it. We should embrace any of those positive qualities for long-term survival and the quantity and quality should be embraced. I mean, yes. we're social mammals, and as social mammals, really the top of the evolutionary change, we represent a huge difference between the old order of the individual survival of the fittest and the new order of survival, which is survival of the species through cooperative behavior.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's a new order for the ages. Gary, thank you for the call, and thanks for watching us there in Arkansas. We'll be back with Ellen Ratner and Talk Media News in just a moment. Welcome back to your media support group for We the People of the United States of America and really the world, the Thom Hartmann Program. Let's check in with Talk Media News and find out what's going on in the world. This report is brought to you by goatsfortheoldgoat.com and Ellen Ratner's new book, Loving What You Do. On the line with us is Ellen Ratner herself. Ellen, welcome. And what's up in the news today?
Well, oh my gosh, it never is a dull moment in Washington, D.C. or New York. First of all, the junior senator from Kentucky, Senator Rand Paul, basically said, well, we ought to leave Afghanistan, declare victory, and then pay each vet who's been there $2,500. That's a lot of money to pay out for vets and to declare victory. But, of course, who knows? I mean, he's not going to get anywhere with it because the president will never go with it. But I think it's an interesting proposition.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with him.
Also, in terms of North Korea, it looks like after that failed Vietnam talks, it looks like they are restoring their past test site. that they had for testing their nuclear arms.
Right.
Now, of course, South Korea is terrified, and is Japan, and the United States. Of course, the United States believes that they can get rid of any missiles that are fired at the United States. So,
but didn't Donald Trump just permanently end our bilateral military exercises with South Korea?
Well, he did, except for the fact that now North Korea is restoring their past test sites. So who knows what that means?
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay, now, transgender troops. The Palm Center, which is a pro-LGBT group, basically said that the 3 former secretaries at the Pentagon under Obama have said it's a wrong-headed ban to ban transgender people, and that they should, if they can meet the standards, who cares?
Right.
It's craziness, right?
Yeah. No, I agree.
Okay,
This is just Trump using a minority group that he can beat up, a minority group that for the majority of Americans it's okay to beat them up as a campaign thing, which is tragic. It's terrible.
It is tragic. Okay. The International Rescue Committee, better known as the IRC, just reported on women and girls. They said 1/4 of girls in Niger are married before they're 18. That there is a gender gap in Yemen, but they didn't explain what that meant. They said that there are 77% of refugees in Bangladesh who live in settlements are abused and feel unsafe.
Wow, that's terrible there. Did you see the story about how in Idaho, the age of marriage and consent and all that is, I think, 17, maybe 18. But if you have the permission of your parents and a judge, you can get married at any age. And in fact, girls as young as 13 have succeeded in getting a judge to sign off and their parents to sign off and are getting married. And a Democratic congresswoman or state legislator put together legislation to say, and she said, we're just trying to bring our statutory rape laws in line with our marriage laws, to say that the state shall not issue a marriage license for anyone younger than 16, and the Republicans voted it down.
You're kidding.
No.
I actually didn't see that. Thank you for telling me.
I'll send you the link.
That's unbelievable.
When we get off here, I'll send you the link. And Idaho is, by the way, one of 5 states where that's the case.
Oh, my gosh.
Including Texas
5
and Kentucky.
States? I didn't know that. Wow. Yeah. I'm surprised the IRC didn't come up with something about the United States. Yeah,
well, I think they're maybe politically sensitive, but who knows?
Yeah, bought and paid for, as we say at the UN.
Yeah.
Okay. Turkey, by the way, has now wanting to buy F-35s from the United States. However, the supreme commander in NATO, the U.S. commander, is saying, hey, listen, if they buy the Russians' missile defense deal, we should not be selling them F-35 jets. So that's very, very interesting.
Is that because of a concern that they would share, they would have Russian technicians in Turkey for their missile defense system, and those technicians would have access to our F-35s? And thus our technology?
It's unclear, or whether it's just because they would buy a missile defense system from Russia. It's unclear why, but they have absolutely come out against it.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay, now, this is very interesting. Congressman Cummings, who's now Chairman Cummings of the House Oversight Committee, said that he is going to look into the security clearances that were given to Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump. They're a married couple, of course. And over the objections of security personnel at the White House.
Good.
And he wants his committee to take a look at that.
Good. I'd like to know what the heck is going on here. And this larger question that was raised in today's Washington Post, did Jared Kushner share secret U.S. intelligence that he shouldn't have even had access to about Saudi dissidents with Mohammed bin Salman? Because MBS imprisoned, tortured, and murdered a whole bunch of these people right after one of his meetings.
Including women who he supported with driving.
That's correct. And this was right after a meeting he had with Jared Kushner. And by the way, on that list may well have been Jamal Khashoggi.
Right, of course. I wouldn't doubt it.
So was Kushner responsible for Khashoggi being murdered? I want to know.
Well, Blanquita Cullum said to me that we met Khashoggi. I don't remember it, but we did. I remember the meeting, the dinner meeting that we had when we were in Saudi Arabia, but she said Khashoggi was there.
Wow. Wow.
Wow. Okay. So J.P. Morgan now said today that they will not finance private prisons. That is very good news.
Baruch Hashem. Thank God. It's a start. It's a very small start, but it's a start.
Absolutely. Okay. Now, also, the biggest trade gap is now 12% from 2017. That is a monthly trade cap, and it is increasing every month now.
Right. Under Donald Trump, who said that he was going to be great on trade, we have the worst trade deficits in the history of the United States with both China and Europe.
Right. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
I was predicting.
Well, you predicted correctly, Tom.
Yeah.
Now, the National Security Advisor, John Bolton, he talked about Venezuela today, and he said that if sanctions would be put, if any facility or any group facilitates illegal transactions. Now, they didn't describe what an illegal transaction would be, but I think that that's very interesting. They clearly want to bring down the head of Venezuela.
Yeah, we are doing this with both Venezuela and Iran. We're destroying the economies of both these countries intentionally to try to provoke basically right-wing takeovers within the countries. And, we did this back in the 50s in Central America. It didn't work out well. Ellen Ratner with Talk Media News. Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you.
Great talking with you. We'll be back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
We say fight back!
Hey, over at ThomHartmann.com, we've got some really cool stuff. A lot of people don't realize that we produce a daily newsletter, and Sue puts we call it Sue's Daily Stack on there, which is literally a link to every story that I've talked about in the show. So all the research is right there. It's free. We don't share or sell our subscriber list. It's it's there. It's there for you. And it's over at ThomHartmann.com. You can sign up for the free newsletter. You also can get my big picture take of the day, which is exclusively over at our website at ThomHartmann.com, as well as links to our videos, the book reports we typically do every day, all this stuff and more. It's all there at ThomHartmann.com. So check it out and sign up for our newsletter. I think you'll really enjoy it and appreciate it and find a lot of value there. We put a lot of work into this stuff. And you'll find it all right there on our website at ThomHartmann.com. And be sure to check out the newsletter and sign up for it. It's great. 3 weeks and 2 days of fundraising every single day seems like a lot. And, I totally get that, and it is. But unfortunately, that's what it takes to eventually, kind of get some people to say, all right, you got me, I'm still watching, and I want this damn fundraiser to end. So I'm going to call and give some money. 877-378-8669. And thank you to the folks. We hit our $10,000 goal yesterday, actually, our daily goal. In fact, we hit $12,000, which is great because the day before was $530. And, it's not enough to keep anybody on the air. And so we need to do that again today, or at least the 10 grand, please. Although we're considerably behind from last week. We had, one exceptionally good day when we had a match, but other than that, it's been a very, very weak pledge drive up to this point. And, as I've said before, I get it that, every politician on earth is asking for money, and there's a lot of great organizations out there that need help. And these are critical times that we live in. They're dire times. But that's precisely why it's so important to support Free Speech TV. When we put on this program Lori Wallach on, from publiccitizenstradewatch.org, or Greg Palast, the investigative journalist, or, fill in the blanks, who our regular guests are. In a way, we're supporting them. They're representing organizations that are constantly asking for money, engaged in outreach. And by putting them on the air, we're elevating their visibility and helping their fundraising efforts, which is a good thing. I'm saying that that's a good thing. So in that context, in that way, by helping Free Speech TV, you're also helping all these other organizations that pop up on Free Speech TV, all the other groups that you'll see on Sonali's show and Stephanie's show and Amy's show and on and on. David's show. That it's media is that kind of this complex thing, and it's got all this stuff to it, and it has consequences far beyond just it's the Thom Hartmann Program kind of thing. So by helping Free Speech TV, you literally are helping all those other groups. You're putting them in front of literally, millions of people. And that's a great thing. So please call now, 877-378-8669. With a $20 gift, you get the Free Speech TV flag lapel pin. With a $60 gift, you get the Free Speech TV set of stickers, the 6-sticker design pack. With a $72 gift, you get my new book, which is, the release date is June 7th, but we're hoping we can get copies in late May to be able to, I'll sign book plates for them, and they'll put them in the books, and so you'll have autographed copies of them. The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment. And I think I've described before to you, this is, in my opinion, a major book. I put a lot of work into this book, and it's really the culmination of years of research. And I think you're going to find it absolutely fascinating. It's got some really good solutions for our gun problem in this country. With a $100 gift, Free Speech TV t-shirt with the viewer design. With a $200 gift, it's the hoodie, the Free Speech TV hoodie. With the $360 gift, you get all of the above. With a $500 gift, come to a webinar here, that I'm putting together on resolving fear, anxiety, stress, and trauma. And this is, how to get control of and heal from fear, anxiety, stress, and trauma using the deep techniques that go back to the 1700s and more modern strategies developed by Milton Erickson and Richard Bandler, dealing with pains in the past and fears about the future, resolving trauma, letting go of triggers in our lives, all these sorts of things. With that's with a $500 gift. With a $1,000 gift, come to Portland and, hang out for the last hour of our program, and I'll take you to lunch. It's actually, I really like those. It's really, in fact, there's a couple people who've done it more than once, and it's always nice to see them again too. Some of them have, I think of them as friends. They're it's nice to get to know you, to get to know the people who are watching this program and care about this program and are willing to support our program and Free Speech TV. So that's with a $1,000 gift. The number is 877-378-8669. We're talking about keeping Free Speech TV on the air, literally. I mean, your contributions are paying the electric bill, the light bill, the salaries and things, the satellite connectivity bills, and they are not small, but they are not wildly out of control. So, A, we're talking about keeping Free Speech TV on the air, but B, we're also talking about supporting the programs on Free Speech TV and the guests and the issues and all the other things that you get introduced to via Free Speech TV. So this is a way of supporting basically a lot of the realm, the sphere of stuff that we as progressives care about. 877-378-8669. Thank you so much.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. We've been talking for the last couple of hours, and in fact had an interesting debate with Brian Pruitt of Red State about what the hell is it that these TV pundits are talking about when they say Democrats need to move to the middle. What does that mean? And this is, by the way, the Republican advice. The Republicans on TV are all saying Democrats need to move to the middle if they want to beat Trump. And why are we listening to Republicans? But we'll get back to that conversation in just a minute. Right now on the line with us is our old buddy, Greg Palast, the investigative journalist, author, filmmaker. His most recent, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. GregPalast.com is the website. You can tweet him at Greg_Palast, just like I'm Thom_Hartmann. Greg, welcome back to the program.
Glad to be with you again, Tom.
So recap for us exactly where we're at with regard to Venezuela.
Well, where we're at is there's a guy named Juan Guaido who announced himself as president, 35-year-old white guy. This is a nation made up of mostly mestizo, dark people. He's announced himself as president, never ran for president, and it was after a call from Donald Trump saying, you call yourself the president, and I'll call you the president. And that's how now Trump and his oily allies are literally telling Venezuela who their president is. The guy never claimed, he didn't even run. The only person who's ever said he's run for office is some woman named Kirsten Gillibrand. I don't know who she is, but she said that we have to recognize Juan Guaido as president because he was legitimately elected. Senator Gillibrand, when was that election? It never was held. Yeah. So we have the U.S. imposing a president. Why? Well, underneath Venezuela is the largest reserve of oil on the planet. Go to the OPEC site, you'll see it has reserves that are about 4 times that of Saudi Arabia.
Whoa.
And what's going on here? So there's many things that I could address. We've talked before.
Well, let's start out about that oil. Yeah. This is a special and unique kind of oil, right?
Yes. Well, first of all, it's a very heavy oil, super heavy oil, and it's the number one customer for Venezuela are the refineries on the Gulf Coast of Texas owned by guess who? Koch Industries. So Venezuela's number one customer are the brothers Koch, and normally you get a discount for gunky, horrible, heavy oil that has to be sold cheap. The Canadians knock off 30% off the price of the oil because it's so gunky from their heavy tar sand. Well, the Kochs are captive customers. Hugo Chavez, who I knew, and I know the current president too, said, look, we know they're captive customers. We're going to stick it to them. They charge a massive premium to the Kochs for their oil. The Kochs don't like that. So they have 2 choices. Either complete the XL pipeline, which brings down the Canadian junk to the Gulf Coast.
Hang on just a second. Let me just back up a little bit. My understanding is that the reason why all this is happening, everything you're describing, is because it takes a completely different kind of refinery to turn this gunky, thick, heavy oil into gasoline and diesel fuel and other things from a normal refinery. And the only one of those kind of special kind of refineries for that special kind of oil, which can then only process that special kind of oil, is the one that's owned by Koch Industries on the coast, right?
That's correct. In other words, Koch Industries has refineries in the middle of Texas oil fields. They can't use Texas oil because it's not dirty enough, heavy enough, filthy enough, believe it or not, for the Koch Industries refinery. Right. So they're stuck with Venezuela, and they don't like being stuck with the price that's demanded of Venezuela, so they need some regime change going on here. So the U.S. government has embargoed Venezuela. That is, Trump has embargoed Venezuela.
Which is devastating their economy.
Devastating. They can't get food. They can't get medicine. It's absolute devastation. And by the way, then they say, oh, look how incompetent the government is. People can't eat. And they had this phony thing where Marco Rubio and Trump shipped about boxes of food for like 2,000 people to the Brazilian border. And the government of Venezuela said, we don't need your charity. We're a rich nation. Pay us for our oil. Right now, the Kochs are holding some of the money from Venezuela that they're supposed to pay for the oil. Some of it is under the control of the U.S. Treasury, Steve Mnuchin, who's made sure that the number one creditor of Venezuela's American oil arm, which is called Citgo, you've seen those stations.
Yep.
The number one creditor is Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs, where Steve Mnuchin hails from, they're getting a chunk of the money. The Kochs are doing very well by this process of stealing Venezuela's money. In the meantime, the people are starving. And that's what's happening. It's a choking embargo, and you have other oily nations who are joining in to give Trump. Normally, Trump is isolated in foreign affairs. So why are nations like Canada and the British government joining in on this attack?
Well, isn't the largest or second largest source of revenue for Canada's economy oil?
Yes. So they are in direct competition with Venezuela. And here's one of the things I want that we shouldn't forget. One of the charges against the current elected president, not the Trump-chosen president, but the elected president,
Maduro,
is that he's corrupt, his government is corrupt, and the oil money has been stolen. Yeah, it's been stolen, but by the Kochs, by Mnuchin, by Goldman Sachs, etc. This is a pretty funny claim by, for example, Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, is right now under investigation for covering up massive bribes to Muammar Gaddafi for bribing that government for its oil in Libya.
Right. Back in the day.
And the UK government also was paying bribes, about $200 million, to the Saudis because they could be bribed, and the government had to quash that investigation under national security grounds. In the U.S., the Minerals and Mining Services was known as a cesspool of corruption, trading sex and goodies and Super Bowl tickets for U.S. oil resources. That's in the U.S. Exxon, that American flag-waving company, ExxonMobil, was part of a group of oil companies that paid $160 million bribe to the president of Kazakhstan. And by the way, we're not worried about those dictators like Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, the Saudi royals who are just dictators in bathrobes. We don't worry about democracy in those nations, do we?
Right.
And by the way, an Exxon official did get 3 years in prison for that bribery, but no one else. It goes on and on. And what I found from oil company executives in the years that I've been covering Venezuela, I did it first for The Guardian and BBC. And I was down in Venezuela many times, met with Chavez, with Maduro, with the opposition too. And what oil company executives were telling me, the frustration with Venezuela is that they couldn't be bribed. Chavez was unbribable. Is there no corruption? Whenever you have oil, you've got dirty hands somewhere in the system.
So a question, Greg, if here's a hyper simplistic understanding of the situation, and let me lay that out, and you can tell me if I've got it right or wrong, and if I have it right, then I have a question based on it. It sounds to me like what you're saying is the Koch brothers own a refinery that can basically only refine this heavy oil that comes from both either Venezuela or Canada. And the Keystone XL pipeline is an effort to get that Canadian tar sands oil down to the Koch brothers refinery, but it has not yet been completed. So basically, the only place they can get the oil to make their money and leave the waste products in Texas and Louisiana is from Venezuela. Am I right so far? Okay. Yeah. Step two. So then the Koch brothers start leaning on the Trump administration and the Republican Party and one of their toadies, Marco Rubio, to make life absolutely miserable for the Venezuelans. So because the Venezuelans are charging them, a premium for this oil, and in the process trying to take down the government. Because the new guy, this white guy that you described, who has claimed he's president, even though he's just like the Speaker of the House the equivalent of Speaker of the House, has already said that he's willing to bring the American oil companies in. He's willing to basically privatize some of Venezuela's oil and sell that oil to the Koch refinery back at the spot prices, back at lower prices. Am I right so far?
You are right so far. Let me add one other thing. The British government last year asked the Venezuelan government to give British Petroleum the oil fields that had been controlled by the French Total.
Right.
They didn't worry about the dictatorship or democracy or corruption. They wanted those oil fields. The minute the Venezuelan government said, no, you can't have those fields, British Petroleum, we're keeping it for Venezuelans, suddenly they are dictators, and the British government has withheld $1.5 billion in gold, solid gold, kept in the basement of the British exchequer that belongs to Venezuela. That money could feed a lot of people
Oh, that's their reserves. Yeah. So here's my question: if everything that I described is accurate, then and Maduro is fighting for his life now because he took on these oligarchs. Why not why doesn't he just drop the price of his oil to the coke refineries down to international spot prices? He'll still be able to have a profit, sell the oil, and basically say, you guys back off, stop, trying to foment a revolution against me, and I'll sell you the oil at reasonable prices.
Well, what you're saying, I mean, should he respond to a gun to his head? And the answer is probably yes. I'm going to tell you something. I know Maduro. I knew Chavez. Chavez, as he said, was a great chess player. He knew how to push just so far and no further. For example, he annoyed the oil companies and drove out Exxon by putting a 17% tax on Venezuelan oil. By the way, that's about what Sarah Palin taxed the oil companies in Alaska.
Right.
So he knew he could go so far and no further. For all his rhetoric, he he didn't push further than
he was more
than
pragmatic.
Geopolitics could happen. Maduro is a hardliner and not much of a chess player. And the truth is, when the British government, British Petroleum, comes to you and says, we would like your oil, you're supposed to say, yes, sir, and just bargain the terms. The guy was inflexible, and now, if you don't cuddle up to British Petroleum, you don't cuddle up to Exxon, you don't cuddle up to these
apparently Koch Industries,
oil, and the Koch brothers. Baby, you've taken on some pretty heavy-duty cats, and unfortunately, it's not just Maduro. It's people, according to the UN rapporteur, and that's the official investigator from the UN. He says it's a medieval siege. It's a war crime because they are using starvation to obtain oil. That's the UN's official reporter.
Who is the they who is using starvation to obtain oil, according to the UN?
BP, the U.S., and its oil companies. Exxon wants to get back in and wants those fields back. Total wants back into France, etc.
Amazing, Greg. We're out of time, but it's a grim story that everybody needs to know about. There's a great summary of it all, along with a lot of good videos over at gregpalace.com too. And Greg's movie, his most recent book and movie, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, which he recently updated. You can check that out. Greg_Palace is his Twitter handle. Greg, thanks for dropping by.
You're very welcome. Bye.
Great talking with you, my friend. We'll be back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It is 18 minutes past the hour. We'll be back with more of the news of the day and your calls right after this. And welcome back. Just to recap, I just want to kind of recap real quickly my plaintive cry. Now that we understand Venezuela, we understand what's going on there. Why is it that you can't turn on a cable TV news channel these days without seeing some TV pundit or panelist or even the host saying Democrats need to move to the middle or they're going to get wiped out in the next election? What the heck do they mean? I mean, do they mean the Dems should say it's just fine that 30 million Americans don't have health care? That the big banks are ripping us off to the tune of literally hundreds of billions of dollars that they declared in profits last year? And putting our economy at risk in the meantime, that fossil fuel and chemical companies should continue to poison our planet and actually increase the speed at which they're poisoning our planet? I mean, this is what's coming out of the Trump administration's deregulation. It doesn't mean it's just fine if the drug companies, rip us off, if for-profit colleges rip us off, if for-profit charter schools keep ripping us off, that's just fine? Is that what you're talking about when you say we need to move to the center to maintain the status quo? Because these are all what's happening right now. This is what's going on. It's just fine that the American dream is dead? That this is the first generation in 240 years of American history that isn't going to do as well as their parents? That there's no need to bring back unions or union jobs? Is that what they're talking about? What the hell do these people mean? Mike in Goose Creek, South Carolina. Hey, Mike, thanks for watching Free Speech. What's up?
Hi. I'm almost 80 years old, and I grew up as socialism, not a dirty word. my grandfather was an old-fashioned socialist.
So was mine. It's one of the reasons my dad became a Republican.
And
sorry.
And my grandfather used to talk to me a lot about it, and he used to give me all kind of literature about, and it was all very progressive, you know. I mean, they were ahead of their time. They suggested Social Security way back in the 1920s.
Yeah.
And so I've always been a very liberal Democrat, and I sure don't want to go to the center, as you were saying.
How would you define the center, Mike? I still don't know what the hell that means.
I said I don't want to go there.
I know. I don't want to go there either, but I'm not even sure what these people are talking about. Are they talking about the center being those politicians who take a lot of money from corporations and billionaires?
I think they're talking about DLC.
But the DLC was really all about taking money from big corporations, just making sure that they were, quote, clean corporations, white-collar corporations. Yeah. It's okay to take money from Google, but not BP.
Yeah. Well, I was in Cleveland, and when a DLC convention was being held in Cleveland, and they wouldn't let the United Auto Workers into that convention. And the auto workers were actually picketing that convention.
Amazing. What year was that, Mike? Do you remember?
Oh, that has to be in, about the time that...
is that during the Clinton administration?
Clinton administration, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That's this is terrible. Mike, thank you. That's the center. You're right. Thank you. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Ivan in Bartlett, Illinois. Hey, Ivan, what's on your mind today?
Hey, what's up, Tom? Your earlier guest was right about the code.
Okay, by earlier guest, you're talking about Brian Pruitt from an hour ago?
Yes, sir.
The conservative writer for Red State? Okay.
Right.
For people who just tuned in, why don't you recap what you're talking about?
Well, we're talking about what it means to move to the center.
Uh-huh. And why Republicans like Brian Pruitt are recommending the Democrats should move to the center.
Yes, sir. Now, when the media speaks of moving to the middle, they are speaking in code. And the code is anybody but Bernie.
Yeah.
They are so afraid of Bernie's campaign. You know, he came out of the gate, guns blazing. He raised big money in 2 days. His crowds are huge. He leads in every poll. I just took a poll yesterday on Daily Coast.
Yeah. Bernie,
55%.
Yep.
Everybody else, 1, 2. I think the highest may have been what's her name, Kamala.
I think Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren were both in the teens in that poll, as I recall, and Bernie was over 50%.
No, I don't think they're in the teens.
Even?
They're like 7%.
Okay. We might have looked at it at different times of the day, too, because I know that Bernie really started picking up, and I'm guessing that was because, you know, the word got out that there's a poll.
Yeah, and even Daily Coast tried to skew it by saying, our last poll, the Bernie Bros must have really voted and voted.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not buying that. But what I would buy is that word traveled among Bernie acolytes or followers or whatever. I realize Bernie Bros is a slur. It was a specific slur to indicate that, he was running against a woman and blah, blah, blah. But in any case, yeah, I think you're right. I think they're scared to death of Bernie. And I'm not sure that they're not scared to death of Elizabeth Warren as well. Ivan, thank you. Very well said. Che in Center, Colorado. Am I saying your name right?
Yes, sir.
What's up?
Nothing. I'm just listening to Tom talk right now.
No, that's me. You're on the air, Che.
Oh, my God. No way.
Yeah, you're on the air. What's on your mind?
I want to thank you for everything that you do, and am loving it so much. When you talk about centrists, though, you act like there's a difference between Republicans and Democrats, and that is a very big division.
I don't understand what you're saying.
It's just a matter of I want everybody to get along, and we all have the centrist idea is much more of left, right. I hate guns. I hate capital punishment. But what we get together on is the idea of everybody coming together.
Yeah. Here's the problem. You know, for several centuries in the United States, you had African Americans saying we would like our rights. You had women saying we would like our rights. You had gay people saying we would like our rights. You had other minorities saying we would like our rights. And you had basically two groups opposing those. The progressives were always saying yes. The two groups opposing them were the people who were nakedly opposing them, the racists, the misogynists, saying no, no way. And then you had this group of so-called centrists who said, yeah, we agree with you. You should have the right to vote, women. You should have the right to have a job and live in a neighborhood, people of color. But we've got to do it slowly. We've got to take, and it took us hundreds of years. And Che, respectfully, I think a lot of people are saying enough.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Che, thank you very much for your call. I share your sentiment. I want people to be coming together as well. I just don't think we should be letting Republicans define the terms of Democratic debates. 3 weeks and 2 days of fundraising every single day seems like a lot. And, I totally get that, and it is. But unfortunately, that's what it takes to eventually, kind of get some people to say, all right, you got me, I'm still watching, and I want this damn fundraiser to end. So I'm going to call and give some money. 877-378-8669. And thank you to the folks. We hit our $10,000 goal yesterday, actually, our daily goal. In fact, we hit 12,000, which is great because the day before was $530. And, it's not enough to keep anybody on the air. And so we need to do that again today, or at least the 10 grand. Please, although we're considerably behind from last week. We had, one exceptionally good day when we had a match, but other than that, it's been a very, very weak pledge drive up to this point. And, as I've said before, I get it that, every politician on earth is asking for money, and there's a lot of great organizations out there that need help. And these are critical times that we live in. They're dire times. But that's precisely why it's so important to support Free Speech TV. When we put on this program Lori Wallach on, from publiccitizenstradewatch.org, or Greg Pallas, the investigative journalist, or, fill in the blanks, who our regular guests are. In a way, we're supporting them. They're representing organizations that are constantly asking for money, engaged in outreach. And by putting them on the air, we're elevating their visibility and helping their fundraising efforts, which is a good thing. I'm saying that that's a good thing. So in that context, in that way, by helping Free Speech TV, you're also helping all these other organizations that pop up on Free Speech TV, all the other groups that you'll see on Sonali's show and Stephanie's show and Amy's show and on and on. David's show. That it's media is, that kind of this complex thing, and it's got all this stuff to it, and it has consequences far beyond just, it's the Thom Hartmann Program kind of thing. So by helping Free Speech TV, you literally are helping all those other groups. You're putting them in front of literally, millions of people, and that's a great thing. So please call now, 877-378-8669. With a $20 gift, you get the Free Speech TV flag lapel pin. With a $60 gift, you get the Free Speech TV set of stickers, the 6-sticker design pack. With a $72 gift, you get my new book, which is, the release date is June 7th, but we're hoping we can get copies in late May to be able to, you know, I'll sign book plates for them, and they'll put them in the books, and so you'll have autographed copies of them. The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment. And I think I've described before to you, this is, in my opinion, a major book. I put a lot of work into this book, and it's really the culmination of years of research. And I think you're going to find it absolutely fascinating. It's got some really good solutions for our gun problem in this country. With a $100 gift, Free Speech TV t-shirt with the viewer design. With a $200 gift, it's the hoodie, the Free Speech TV hoodie. With a $360 gift, you get all of the above. With a $500 gift, come to a webinar here, you know, that I'm putting together on resolving fear, anxiety, stress, and trauma. And this is, you know, how to get control of and heal from fear, anxiety, stress, and trauma using the deep techniques that go back to the 1700s and more modern strategies developed by Milton Erickson and Richard Bandler, dealing with pains in the past and fears about the future, resolving trauma, letting go of triggers in our lives, all these sorts of things. With a that's with a $500 gift. With a $1,000 gift, come to Portland and you know, hang out for the last hour of our program, and I'll take you to lunch. You know, it's actually, I really like those. It's really, in fact, there's a couple people who've done it more than once, and it's always nice to see them again too. Some of them have, you know, I think of them as friends. They're you know, it's nice to get to know you know, to get to know the people who are watching this program and care about this program and are willing to support our program and Free Speech TV. So that's with a $1,000 gift. The number is 877-378-8669. We're talking about keeping Free Speech TV on the air, literally. I mean, your contributions are paying the electric bill, the light bill, the salaries and things, the satellite connectivity bills, and they are not small, but they are not wildly out of control. So, you know, A, we're talking about keeping Free Speech TV on the air, but B, we're also talking about supporting the programs on Free Speech TV and the guests and the issues and all the other things that you get introduced to via Free Speech TV. So this is a way of you know, supporting basically a lot of the realm, the sphere of stuff that we as progressives care about. 877-378-8669. Thank you so much.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Fair and only slightly unbalanced. Thom Hartmann here with you. Boy, you know, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, is really roiling things, really making things happen, really boiling the water, really bringing stuff out when they start singing songs about her. My old friend Jim Turr, T-E-R-R, who owns, or who is, BlueCanyonProductions.com, and a brilliant musician. He's got CDs out and all kinds of stuff. Just sent me a brand new song he just recorded with permission to play it on the air. And I'm going to play a little bit of it for you. This is hysterical. Listen to this. This is the setup, and here it comes, and you'll figure out what it's all about real quickly.
You better shape up and support what's good, or she'll kick your butt like you know that she should. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is coming to town.
There you go, yes.
Fairer wages, single-payer health care. She's working class, so you know she's been there. AOC is coming to town.
And then here's the sort of the last half of it here. I think I can get right over to here.
They've tried to tear down her dancing, her boyfriend, and her debts. Don't think you'll get her that easily, or you'll be sorry you tried, I'll bet. So, have some respect, give her a hearing. She's the voice of reason that some have been fearing. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is the new kid town.
There you go, Jim Turr, BlueCanyonProductions.com. Oh, what a hoot. You know, there is so much great creative talent out there. Tom in St. Paul, Minnesota. Hey, Tom, what's on your mind today?
I need a little bit of time here to cover some points, but this you provoked me to call in when you were debating that guy from Red State. And I want to touch on three things. The Davos meeting, where a Dutch economist was debating Michael Dell. CPAC.
Tom, I'll give you 2 minutes.
Okay, quickly. So Rick Wilson, you know, he's that conservative consultant that wrote a book, Everything Trump Touches
Yeah,
Dies.
and he's on MSNBC constantly.
Yeah. Made a good point, though. He said, Democrats do not speak American, and he's right on. So, first of all, the Davos guy, the Dutch economist, Michael Dell says, name me one country that's successful that has a 70% tax rate. And the economist looks at him and says, America. What do you mean? He starts going into the FDR New Deal, a golden age of prosperity, and it just blew Michael Dell away, and he couldn't even, he just was like dumbstruck, right?
Yeah.
Your guest, when you started listing off the OECD countries, and he said, well, we're not any of them. We're unique. We don't care what they are. We need, and you do this often, I mean, I learned so much from you, but we need to Americanize the message and always connect it to FDR, progressivism, socialism, and the Europeans copied us. We have to Americanize it, right? And, yeah, that's all I wanted to say was that they want to paint us as un-American, and they want to paint themselves as American. That's why Trump, the draft dodger, hugs the flag. I mean, what is that, right? And they paint, you know, Kerry and Max Cleland, war heroes, they paint them as traitors. We have to speak American and invoke the FDR vision versus the Reagan vision.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Tom. And what was the joke? I think it was Joy Behar said if Trump had hugged that flag any tighter, he'd have to pay it hush money. I mean, it's like that is, you know, what was Samuel Johnson, you know, I believe it was Samuel Johnson who said that patriotism is the last refuge of the scoundrel.
Yes. And I always, when I debate my relatives and friends, I've converted a few. I always ask them, let me ask you, do you think China is freer than France? What do you mean? Well, you guys love China with their unregulated capitalism, and you say France is socialist and not, because they confuse freedom with capitalism. Yeah. Glenn Beck did that this week, by the way, at CPAC, talking about capitalism equating to freedom. So we have to, and when you start talking to them and you say, listen, China is less free than socialist France. Don't you get it?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know? Tom, spot on. Thank you very much for the call. Rebecca in Seattle. Hey, Rebecca, what's up?
Hey, Tom. Thanks for taking my call.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for listening on KBCS. What's on your mind?
So two things before I go to make my point. One, I just want to say I really appreciate your point of view. I'm a daughter of a lifelong Fox-watching Republican, and I'm a 20-year Democracy Now! Watching activist. So
good on you.
I definitely can relate to that. You know, the frustration of caring deeply about people that you have extremely, vastly different political stances and wanting to bridge that gap somehow in some way, and how important that is. Mm-hmm. Secondly, I just wanted to also agree with you wholeheartedly that regardless of who the nominee is on the Democratic side, regardless of how we feel about it, everybody needs to vote Trump out if he's not already in prison by then.
Yep. Well, and then it would be voting Pence out, so it's the same thing. Yep, I'm with you.
Or whoever the Republican is, because they all basically have the same agenda.
Yep.
So all of that said, I wanted to speak to the discussion you had earlier about Republicans trying to direct Democrats towards the center, and kind of my assessment of why they might be doing that. If we take a look back in time, when Bernie was running his campaign, he had a historical campaign. I mean, people came out in thousands and thousands. The margins of his support were like 80%, 90%, 70%. He woke up the voice of the people. He it's not even about him. I mean, I support Bernie, but I mean, it's about the message.
Yeah, in fact, one of his new slogans is "Us, not me," or "Not me, us."
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, I mean, if we just look at the climate during that time, America, I mean, was on fire for revolution, for change, for movement. I mean, he really spoke to what is happening on the ground and what the people want, people want. And I think that that's extremely scary to the Republicans who hold power and are in bed with all of these corporations and, big interests, because it's a threat to their whole existence. And so, of course, they're trying to water it down, like, oh, water it down, go towards the center, because in reality, that's what would win. I mean, if we look at what was happening in the polls, I mean, Bernie's message is extremely popular.
Yes.
And the people are behind those messages and those agendas. He brings together the poor, the marginalized, working class people. I mean, uniting the people, the 99% against the 1%, that's a threat. And the Republicans don't like that. So they're going to try as much as they can to try to steer the narrative in a different direction.
Here, in my opinion, is what the Republicans are doing, and why so many Republican consultants and former Republican consultants who still have loyalties to that side, essentially, whether they are hosts on cable television or whether they are panelists on cable television, are telling Americans to move to the center. They look at, and forget about actually how these people governed, right? I'm going to be talking here about Clinton and Obama. Forget about how they governed, because there were all kinds of other circumstances that had to do with everything from, the Gingrich Revolution to the rise of the Tea Party and all this other stuff. But Bill Clinton in 1992 campaigned on a speech called the New Covenant. You can Google it. It is Bernie Sanders. Or nearly. It's 70% Bernie Sanders. Bill Clinton campaigned as a true progressive, and America elected him overwhelmingly. Al Gore, on the other hand, in 2000, refused to campaign as a true progressive. He campaigned as a centrist, and he lost the election. Now, I think he won the election in Florida. It's a whole other thing, but it should have been a blowout, right? Al Gore was the only Democrat frankly, I think in my lifetime, who openly campaigned as a centrist, as I'm kind of a middle-of-the-road guy. I want to do something about climate change, but otherwise I'm a middle-of-the-road guy and I can work with Republicans. And it was a disaster for him. And then, Barack Obama campaigned on hope and change and progressivism are equally radical things. And people overwhelmingly elected Obama. So the Republicans look at these three election cycles, Clinton, Gore, and Obama, and they say, when the Republicans run on platforms of progressive issues and change, they win. And when Democrats run on, as Al Gore did, when Democrats run on a platform of, things are okay, we can tweak around the edges, in other words, I'm a centrist, they lose. And so thus the Republicans are showing up on all these TV shows saying, hey, you Democrats, you need to have a centrist running for president. In fact, you need even more of them. Here's John Hickenlooper. You can vote for him. And it makes me crazy. What do you think, Rebecca? Make sense?
I completely agree. And one last note, regardless, I'm a firm believer in united we stand and divided we fall. And our country is so divided right now. And we really need the people, ultimately the people, to come together at the grassroots and push this movement forward to heal these divisions and really, make a future for ourselves.
Totally with you. Rebecca, thank you so much for the call. It's great to hear from you, and I really appreciate it. Patsy in Arroyo Grande, is it Grande or Grande, California?
Arroyo Grande. Yeah.
Hey, Patsy, what's up?
Yeah. Okay, well, first I just wanted to mention that Dante thought that the middle of hell, which is the fifth circle of hell, was where all the greedsters go, the people that are wrathful, that more or less the way we live, sort of what the Republicans like, the greedy, the hoarders,
the grifters,
everything, the whole thing. That was, I think, what their concept is. But that, I'm just being, tongue in cheek here. What I really wanted to talk about is Medicare as a centrist idea, whether people realize it or not. It was based on Blue Cross, as it was in the 60s. The 80% $100 deductible, and for seniors because they were a high-risk population that couldn't get Blue Cross, and it was also because of the practitioners, the doctors. They didn't want to go work for the government, so they were able to have their private practice to still be assured of being paid. So I get really kind of upset every time people call it a socialist idea. It's not. It was a compromise between government and the private sector, and that's really what I wanted to say.
Yeah, and you said it very well. And when people, these TV pundits, said centrists, what they were talking about were the politicians who espouse the policies that more than 70% of Americans want, just making that the cutoff, right? A supermajority of Americans want. If, when they said centrist, that's what they meant, then I would say, yeah, because the majority of Americans, more than 70% of Americans, want Medicare for all, want the big banks broken up, want corporations restrained, want better pollution controls, want free college for everybody, want debt relief for the students who got suckered by people like Donald Trump with his phony scam university. The majority, more than 70% of Americans want all those things. Those are center positions. That is the radical middle, right? As a phrase that I used when we first started the show 15 years ago. But the fact of the matter is that when they say centrist, that's not what they mean. When they say centrist, what they mean are Democrats who are taking money from special interests and Democrats who are not advocating essentially radical or rapid change in the direction of every other developed country in the world. These are not experiments. These are things that have been proven to work in radical countries like Canada and France and Germany. I mean, it's, Patsy, well said. Thank you very much for the call. Bryce, in Glendale, California. Hey, Bryce, what's on your mind? Thanks for watching YouTube. What's up?
Hi, Tom. I'm just calling to.
Hey, Bryce.
Compare...
Let me just put you on hold for a second. I'm sorry. I totally missed my cue, and I'm going to hit a break here in less than a second. And in fact, there it is, and it's one of those hard breaks that I have no control over. I went too long. My apologies, Bryce. We'll pick your call up right on the other side of this. What a day, huh? I get all cranked up, and I forget to even look at my own clock. The question: why is nobody telling Republicans to move to the center? Or maybe they are, but what do they mean by that? And what do they mean when they say to Democrats, move to the center?
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
I'm just not getting this. Or actually, I think I do get it, and it's pretty ugly. That's really the problem I've got with it. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Bryce, let's try that again. My apologies. Bryce in Glendale, California. What's on your mind?
Hey, Tom, that's all right. But, like I was just wanting to make my point when you talk about these TV pundits and all that and how they defame and slander Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And basically, like you said a long time ago, you would never appear on a cable network that would tell you what to say and give you a script. And basically, these are ruthless people that are lowlife, dressed up in their suits with makeup on, just spouting off lies.
Well, in many cases, I can't disagree with that analysis, Bryce. I know some of these people, and some of them actually are. I think they think they're doing the best, and that they're. But I think that they live in bubbles. They fundamentally misunderstand America.
Exactly. And to my second point, do you think Joe Biden entering the 2020 presidential race will hurt Bernie?
No, I don't think Joe Biden has a chance. And if he gets into the race, his numbers they're never going to break 10%. I just don't think. And now with this new rule, which is just brilliant, that Tom Perez put into place, where you've got to get 65,000 small donations in order to qualify for the Democratic debates. Maybe Biden could get that, but we'll see. I mean, if I'm completely wrong and Biden ends up our nominee, I'm going to do everything I can to get him elected because he's a Democrat, and the Republicans are just plain old flat out evil. But I just don't think that I think America is over it with so-called centrists. Bryce, thanks a lot for the call. Debbie in Lake Villa, Illinois. Hey, Debbie. Thanks for listening on TuneIn. What's up? Debbie? I'm going to put Debbie on hold. She's on line 7, Louise, if you want to check it out. Colleen in Manorville, New York. Watch this on Free Speech TV. Hey, Colleen, what's on your mind today?
Hi. Good afternoon. And one, I want to thank you so much. You give me such an education on all of these issues.
Thank you.
And so many issues in so little time.
Yeah.
So, so many things that you bring up strike a chord with me. But the one I want to talk about is that, you know, at the time that I was a young child and my parents separated, and my mother was my main caregiver, and not just care in terms of custodial care, but in terms of financial care.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I loved my father dearly, and I took care of him at the end of his life, and he was a World War II veteran who developed Parkinson's from a head injury that he sustained from his military service.
Mm-hmm.
He nickeled and dimed my mother out of every penny of child support that he possibly could get away with. And I could see, looking on things now, that there is no possibility that my mother would be able to work just one job as a secretary and support us.
You mean today, whereas she could back then?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. And with all the other things that you bring up, the Republicans being evil and all of that, I agree. But my point is that there was a time when, first of all, men should be responsible for their children, whether you're with the mother or not, whether you ever married her or not. We have DNA tests now that you can say, this is your child and this is your responsibility. But aside from that, is that there was a time when a woman could have, and there were 2 of us, that you could have 2 children and support them and not be feeling like you had to, you know, work 3 jobs.
Right, with a single salary. You know, and there was a time when you could have stay-at-home moms or stay-at-home dads, for that matter. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and my dad worked in a tool and die shop, and they had 4 children. I was the oldest of 4 boys. Spot on, Colleen. Thank you for sharing your story with us. It's a compelling one, and it really illustrates what we've been talking about all day. Thank you. Hey, over at ThomHartmann.com, we've got some really cool stuff. A lot of people don't realize that we produce a daily newsletter, and Sue puts we call it Sue's Daily Stack on there, which is literally a link to every story that I've talked about in the show. So all the research is right there. It's free. We don't share or sell our subscriber list. It's you know, there's just it's there. It's there for you. And it's over at ThomHartmann.com. You can sign up for the free newsletter. You also can get my big picture take of the day, which is exclusively over at our website at ThomHartmann.com, as well as links to our videos, the book reports we typically do every day, all this stuff and more. It's all there at ThomHartmann.com. So check it out and sign up for our newsletter. I think you'll really enjoy it and appreciate it and find a lot of value there. We put a lot of work into this stuff. And you'll find it all right there on our website at ThomHartmann.com. And be sure to check out the newsletter and sign up for it. It's great.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. Sean in Stamford, Connecticut. Hey, Sean, what's on your mind today?
Hi, I love the show. It's been so great to listen to all this time.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, 2 things I want to bring up. Number one, you were talking about moving to the center before.
Right.
And I remember watching Rachel Maddow some time back, it was maybe a decade ago, and she had mentioned how as the Republicans kept moving to the right from the days of Reagan, so the Democrats as well, they moved to the center, has kept moving to the right, and now if you look at someone like George Will, he was a conservative, but now he looks like a left-wing lunatic because the party has moved so far to the right.
Yeah, it's called the Overton window. It's the boundaries, the window within which, quote, acceptable and normal and mainstream dialogue can happen. And that has moved so far to the right since the 1960s, 70s that this country is almost indistinguishable from what it was back then.
Right. And the other thing I wanted to bring up was you also remember when I was in high school, we talked about the 1954 Brown versus Board of Education.
Right.
And it goes, and remember, what was the text in the ruling? with all deliberate speed.
That's
and
correct.
we have, what did that mean as a high school student? And I'm thinking to myself, this is what you're talking about. They're saying, oh, you got to move slowly. Well, isn't that all deliberate speed?
Yeah, that all deliberate speed. Well, you know, there was a decision. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name of the decision, but there was a Supreme Court decision either in 55 or 56, which basically said that the 1954 Brown decision is not being implemented rapidly enough, and we're going to put some teeth in it. But even that, I mean, that was still the 1950s. And, you know, I was in elementary school through the 1950s. I was in junior high school and high school in the early 1960s. And, you know, we still had segregated schools. I mean, there was
Arlington, Virginia was one of the, I remember in 57, they integrated, well, the state told them not to.
Oh, Virginia shut down their public school system for a whole year.
Right. And Arlington defied the state of Virginia, well, Commonwealth of Virginia. And I know what they did to them, if anything, but they openly defied the governor of Virginia.
Remarkable. Remarkable. Sean, thanks for the call. So where is the center? And what is all deliberate speed? That's a great question, Sean. Anyhow, we'll be back tomorrow. I think Congressman Pocan's going to be with us. Yep, he's going to start off the program in the first hour. He's going to be taking your calls. That'll be a lot of fun for the hour. And then we've got a lot of other, you know, great content to share with you. And, of course, the news cycle just never stops. So we will continue with that. And in the meantime, don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. It requires all of us. And that includes you. So please get out there, get active, tag your end. I'll see you tomorrow.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.